Chapter 2042. The second stage of Chaotic Supreme. Jian Wushuang constantly elevated his divine power as he stayed in the Golden Prohibition. The Golden Prohibition was unique to begin with. There was no one who noticed Jian Wushuang in the Golden Prohibition. There were 3 great emperors who continued to stand guard outside the huge golden whirlpool all year round. Occasionally, the 3 great emperors would release their soul power to scan through the golden whirlpool. However, their souls couldn't detect the scenery within the Golden Prohibition. Naturally, they didn't find out about Jian Wushuang. It was even more impossible to see him with naked eyes. Hence, the entire golden whirlpool became peaceful. Jian Wushuang stayed in the Golden Prohibition to refine and absorb divine power aggressively in order to level up his power, but no one knew. As for the Dark Millstone, it wasn't affected at all. It continued to move in eternal chaotic world and it continued to crush everything. Its size was growing bigger and bigger over time. The experts in eternal chaotic world were preparing at the fastest speed possible. In such a situation, time flew past. In the blink of an eye, 30 years passed. In the Golden Prohibition above the Emperor Supreme Rock, Jian Wushuang, who had been keeping his eyes closed, suddenly opened his eyes. In the instant when he opened his eyes, his aura underwent a drastic change. Previously, he had merely been on the Sir God level. Now, he had reached Emperor God realm. I have reached the second stage of Chaotic Supreme. Jian Wushuang clenched his hands and he was filled with excitement. One should know that it had not been long since he had stepped foot onto the 7th step of inverse cultivation. According to ordinary cultivation, he would at least need tens of thousands of years or even longer before he could get to the second stage. However, he only spent 30 years in the Golden Prohibition before he broke through. This was the opportunity. It could also be described as Jian Wushuang's luck. When Jian Wushuang had reached the second stage of the Chaotic Supreme, his overall power had naturally increased tremendously. First of all, his divine body had been enhanced. Then, it was followed by his divine power. From the first stage to the second stage, it was a transformation in quality in terms of his divine power. Judging from the strength of his divine power, it was stronger by a few times. Most importantly, the intensity of his divine power had grown. The divine power in the second stage was much more abundant than in the first stage. Such abundant divine power represented that his defense ability had increased again. If he was the first stage, he could reorganize his divine body 4 times. Then, as his divine body enhanced again, it would be much more difficult to reorganize his power. But his divine power could support him in reorganizing his divine body by 7 or even 8 times. It was even more ridiculous, it was even more terrifying. However, my ancient tribe bloodline didn't improve along with this breakthrough, Jian Wushuang muttered. In between his eyebrows, there were only 8 ancient tribe stars. Jian Wushuang could do nothing about it. Regardless, his power continued to increase tremendously. Before this, I was only in the first stage. Relying on the pure divine power that I enhanced via the first volume of immemorial celestial body I cultivated, in addition to my ancient tribe bloodline power, my power had already far beyond any ordinary great emperor. When I fight head-on, even when I was up against the beast-like bald man from 3 Emperor World, Ling Zong, he was only just my match. Now that my divine power has increased again, in terms of power and strength, there shouldn't be any great emperor from 3 Emperors World who can compare to me favorably. Even if I met the bald man, he couldn't suppress me in terms of strength. Jian Wushuang beamed with joy. From the first stage to the second stage, his fighting power had transformed in terms of quality. He was absolutely the top among all great emperors. Besides Emperor Bai, there was no one in Sanctuary Alliance who could be his match. Not only was he strong, but his defensive ability was terrifyingly strong. He was almost invincible. If he had to state a flaw of his, it would only be that his comprehension of doctrine was slightly lower. Jian Wushuang was content to have reached such a level in a short time. Jian Wushuang let out a breath of relief and took out a token. The token was naturally Emperor Zhu Qiao's. Emperor Zhu Qiao, Jian Wushuang finally sent a massage to Emperor Zhu Qiao. On a remote mountain in Imperial City far away, there was a cave dwelling that had recently been opened. Abysmal Saint Master and Emperor Zhu Qiao had been hiding in the cave dwelling for the past 30 years. When Jian Wushuang sent a message, Emperor Zhu Qiao immediately received it. Sword Emperor. It's a message from Sword Emperor. Emperor Zhu Qiao, who was reclining leisurely, instantly stood up. His eyes were beaming with joy. What? Abysmal Saint Master was instantly shaken too. He looked at Emperor Zhu Qiao and asked, Zhu Qiao, what did you say just now? It's Sword Emperor. Emperor Zhu Qiao was excited. He sent a message. How is this possible? Abysmal Saint Master looked at him in disbelief. Didn't Jian Wushuang die 30 years ago? In such a situation, he should have been dead. There was absolutely no chance of survival. Why has he suddenly sent a message after 30 years? Hurry up and ask him, Abysmal Saint Master said. Emperor Zhu Qiao immediately took out a token and asked closely, Sword Emperor, is it really you? You didn't die. Of course, I am living well. Jian Wushuang smiled faintly. How could it be? How did you escape from such a situation? Emperor Zhu Qiao asked in disbelief. I didn't escape. I am still in Imperial Peak and I am in the Golden Whirlpool. I used a unique way to fool the great emperors from 3 emperor worlds into thinking that I am dead. As a detailed reason, I could only explain that it is related to a unique ability I have as an inverse cultivator, Jian Wushuang answered. I see, Emperor Zhu Qiao nodded. He knew that inverse cultivators were scary and they had an extra unique ability in every step. However, he didn't know what ability the 7th step in inverse cultivation had. Regardless, the unique ability that the 7th step in inverse cultivation had seemed to have rescued Jian Wushuang. That's awesome. It's great that you survived. Emperor Zhu Qiao and Abysmal Saint Master were filled with excitement. Then, Emperor Zhu Qiao asked, how about Ji Luo? How is she? Great Emperor Ji Luo passed away. I saw her die with my own eyes. She performed the secret skill of Star Palace and Soul Ignition to fight for more time for me, Jian Wushuang said in a low voice. Although Great Emperor Ji Luo wasn't a close friend per se, the 4 of them were comrades in arms that had been through life and death situations. The final decision that Great Emperor Ji Luo had made at the last moment of her life had earned Jian Wushuang's respect. There was no doubt that Great Emperor Ji Luo was a hero that had died for eternal chaotic world. Chapter 2043 Double Agent. Abysmal Saint Master and Emperor Zhu Qiao became quiet when they heard Jian Wushuang's reply, but they weren't surprised. Jian Wushuang had survived because of his unique ability as an inverse cultivator. On the other hand, Great Emperor Ji Luo didn't have the ability. Regardless, it is great news that you survived. I have to report to Sanctuary Alliance about this, Emperor Zhu Qiao said. Don't be in a hurry, Jian Wushuang cut him off. Why? Emperor Zhu Qiao was confused. Don't spread the news about me being alive. Only you and Abysmal Saint Master know about this, Jian Wushuang said. Sword Emperor, you mean? Emperor Zhu Qiao was initially stunned but he quickly responded. Abysmal Saint Master squinted his eyes and said, Jian Wushuang, you mean that there is a double agent from Holocaust Sect or Akron Palace in Sanctuary Alliance? Yes, Jian Wushuang nodded. Didn't you suspect this? Abysmal Saint Master and Emperor Zhu Qiao looked distressed. As great emperors, they had to be intelligent. Before Jian Wushuang had pointed it out, they had had the suspicion. One should know that they were well prepared 30 years ago. They had found the correct time to take action and Jian Wushuang's disguise had been perfect all the time. In a normal situation, it would have been impossible for the great emperors in 3 Emperor World to know that Jian Wushuang had been into Imperial Peak. Let alone the fact that Thed set up a trap for Jian Wushuang to be in. In actual fact, not only had the great emperors from 3 Emperors World known that they were in Imperial Peak long ago, but they had also been certain that they would take action during the doctrine propagation ceremony. Not long after Thed arrived in 3 Emperors World, there had been 6 great emperors that found and besieged them. They were almost certain that they had been tracked by the experts in 3 Emperors World all the time. How were they tracked? Naturally, there was people who had shared their information. Our mission isn't publicized in Sanctuary Alliance, only the higher-ups in Sanctuary Alliance know. In other words, Could there be a double agent among the great emperors in Sanctuary Alliance? Abysmal Saint Master creased his eyebrows. Any great emperor expert would be one of the higher-ups in Sanctuary Alliance. If there was a double agent among the great emperors, the person was well hidden. He was very skilled. We still can't determine if there was a double agent among the higher-ups in Sanctuary Alliance. But to be safe, we will not share our action plan. Emperor Zhu Qiao, if you doorport in, you can only tell Emperor Bai that I am alive, Zhen Wushuang exhorted. I understand, Emperor Zhu Qiao nodded. Among the great emperors in Sanctuary Alliance, Emperor Bai definitely couldn't be a double agent. There was no doubt about it. Because if Emperor Bai was a double agent, Eternal Chaotic World didn't stand a chance to survive. As for the others, anyone was possible. Including Abysmal Saint Master and Emperor Zhu Qiao. Abysmal Saint Master and Emperor Zhu Qiao gave their all after they entered Three Emperors' World, and Zhen Wushuang had witnessed their effort with his own eyes. Although the possibility of one of them being a double agent was extremely low, Zhen Wushuang wouldn't send them any message immediately after he reorganized his divine body, just to be safe. After all, if either Emperor Zhu Qiao or Abysmal Saint Master was a double agent, they would immediately inform the great emperors in Three Emperors' World. By then, Zhen Wushuang would definitely be doomed. After his power increased tremendously and he was confident enough to deal with all possible outcomes, he would then send a message to Emperor Zhu Qiao. In the lofty palace in the void near the dark millstone in Eternal Chaotic World. As expected, he didn't die. Emperor Bai sat there when he received a message from Emperor Zhu Qiao's doppelganger. His eyes beamed with joy, but he wasn't too surprised. He had already been wondering if Zhen Wushuang had really died 30 years ago. Now, it seemed that he really hadn't. Mr. Emperor Bai, Sword Emperor requested me to share a message with you. He wants you to not share the news that he is alive with the others. Besides, he is preparing to take action against the Emperor Supreme Rock again, and he has already drawn up a plan. However, he would need Emperor Bai to give full cooperation. Emperor Zhu Qiao's doppelganger sent a message and shared Zhen Wushuang's plan briefly. Emperor Bai heard and nodded. The plan is great. Not only could he escape, but he could also certify whether there is any double agent among the higher-ups in Sanctuary Alliance. However, there is a prerequisite for the plan, which is for him to walk out of Imperial Peak alive. Zhu Qiao, you tell him that I will fully collaborate with him, but he has to be extremely careful. Yes, Emperor Zhu Qiao nodded. In the huge golden whirlpool in Imperial Peak, Zhen Wushuang received Emperor Bai's reply through Emperor Zhu Qiao. Then, he prepared to take action. He let out a breath, then his gaze fixed upon the golden prohibition in front of him. The golden prohibition was a great opportunity for him. In only 30 years' time, he had broken through and reached the second stage via the golden prohibition. If he continued to stay in the golden prohibition, his divine body could continue to improve and he could reach the peak of the second stage. He might even reach the third stage, which was the ultimate stage in the seventh step of inverse cultivation. However, the time required for him to reach the third stage would be too long. He had spent 30 years to get from the first stage to the second stage. However, it would take at least 300 years to get from the second stage to the third stage, or even longer than that. Although a few hundred years or even a few thousand years didn't mean much to him. He could afford to wait, but Eternal Chaotic World couldn't. One should know that the Dark Millstone swept over and crushed everything over the years. Holy kingdoms vanished one after another. If the Dark Millstone continued to revolve for another 300 years, it would definitely reach a terrifying level. By then, when Zhen Wushuang would destroy the Emperor Supreme Rock, and Eternal Chaotic World would be about to be destroyed then as well. Hence, he couldn't wait any longer. He had to take action immediately to stop the Dark Millstone. The Golden Prohibition was the pivotal role to obtain the pure energy from the Emperor Supreme Rock. Destroy it first, Zhen Wushuang muttered, and Blood Mountain sword appeared in his hand. There was a bolt of sword intention that soared up from Zhen Wushuang's body. At the same time, his divine power, which was a few times stronger than 30 years ago, soared too. Zhen Wushuang strengthened his grip and swung with his Blood Mountain sword. A move like strong wind, with the momentum of rainstorm. It was the move that focused on power the most from Sword Principal Xian Luo, Blast Rainstorm, Hong. A terrifying sword light suddenly appeared in the middle of the golden whirlpool. Then, it instantly slashed at the golden whirlpool brutally. The power of the golden prohibition was extraordinary. The golden prohibition could resist any ordinary Great Emperor attack. But then, just as Jian Wushuang struck, crash. The golden prohibition was broken into two from the middle. Chapter 2044 Demolish. The golden prohibition shattered. The originally organized golden whirlpool lost its balance and stirred up a great commotion, rumble. The entire huge golden whirlpool quivered vigorously. The ocean of pure energy instantly turned into a terrifying energy storm and swept out. There was a sudden explosion of energy storm. It absolutely could tear an emperor god into pieces at the first instance. Even an expert of great emperor level who had a weaker divine body would be severely injured by the sudden howl of energy storm. However, Jian Wushuang could stand strong in the middle of the energy storm. During the war 30 years ago, I attacked the golden whirlpool for so long and the energy storm that I stirred up wasn't this strong. As expected, the golden prohibition is the pivotal element of the surrounding great formation. Jian Wushuang smiled. The golden prohibition shattered and the entire golden whirlpool collapsed. However, Jian Wushuang's gaze was fixed upon the mountain-size Emperor Supreme Rock in front of him. The Emperor Supreme Rock was at the root of everything. The golden prohibition, the golden whirlpool, even the dark millstone was powered by the Emperor Supreme Rock as the source of their energy. Then, even though Jian Wushuang had destroyed the golden prohibition and the golden whirlpool, the experts in Three Emperors World could still have a way to recover them as long as the Emperor Supreme Rock was still there. Without the guidance of the golden prohibition, I wonder if I could refine the Emperor Supreme Rock directly. There was an idea that popped up in Jian Wushuang's head and he immediately gave it a try. Just as he was trying his best to refine the Emperor Supreme Rock, there was a great commotion in Imperial Peak. The three great emperors in the palace above the Golden Whirlpool stood guard at the Golden Whirlpool all year round. They were naturally the first to notice the drastic change in the Golden Whirlpool. However, when the three great emperors came back to reality, the Golden Whirlpool had already begun to collapse. Shit! What happened? How could this happen? The three great emperors were shocked. They had been in the void above the Golden Whirlpool and they had been watching the Golden Whirlpool. A few moments ago, the Golden Whirlpool had still been at peace. Then, the Golden Whirlpool had collapsed. Look! The redhead elder shouted as he pointed at the middle of the Golden Whirlpool, where the huge Emperor Supreme Rock was. They could faintly see a human figure there. D***MN. The three of their faces grew grave and they immediately charged to the collapsing Golden Whirlpool. Besides, there were figures soaring in Imperial Cabinet located at the highest point in Imperial Peak. The figures included the beast-like bald man, Ling Zong, who Jian Wushuang was familiar with, the tall and sturdy middle-aged man that was not any weaker than Ling Zong, and also the other 8 great emperors. They noticed the drastic change in the Golden Whirlpool. How could it be? Let's go. Let's rush over. The great emperors looked distressed and they rushed to the Golden Whirlpool at their fastest possible speed. As for the cultivators in early stage and middle stage chaotic realm in Imperial Peak, they were astonished too. In the collapsing Golden Whirlpool, it was replaced with the terrifying energy storm. In the middle of the storm, Jian Wushuang was trying to refine the Emperor Supreme Rock. However, he gave up after a short while. This is too huge. The Emperor Supreme Rock is too huge. The pure energy it contains is ridiculously strong. With my power, I could refine it, but it would require a very long time. I would need at least 10,000 years. On top of that, the Emperor Supreme Rock is quite unique. I can't take it away if I didn't refine it. Jian Wushuang let out a sigh, but he looked like he'd already made a decision. If I can't refine and absorb it, I will have to forcefully destroy it. Jian Wushuang raised his sword up high in the sky. There was a supreme sword intention of an emperor sword that gradually swept out. Among all sword principles that Jian Wushuang mastered, the strongest in terms of power was still King Sword Principle. However, King Sword Principle required time for power accumulation. As his opponent hardly give him any time during close body combat, Sword Principal Xian Luo would be a better one to perform. But now, no one could stop him. Hence, Jian Wushuang naturally performed King Sword Principal. Besides, Jian Wushuang knew how sturdy the Emperor Supreme Rock was long ago. Jian Wushuang had once performed Blast Rainstorm on Emperor Supreme Rock, but he hadn't left any mark on it. Although his power had improved tremendously, it would still be unrealistic if he wanted to completely destroy Emperor Supreme Rock with King Sword Principal. Hence, when he performed the Sword Principal, there was a bolt of mysterious yet fierce power that filled the air. The power as the power of Star. Jian Wushuang was performing his greatest trump card, the secret skill of Star Palace. It wasn't easy to perform the secret skill. Jian Wushuang would definitely not perform it unless it was at a crucial time. At this point, he couldn't think so much because he had to destroy the Emperor Supreme Rock completely. There was a terrifying sword shadow that substantiated in the void from nowhere. The sword shadow was like the Emperor's sword. It was as though billions of heads would fall on the ground with one stroke. The power was enough to shake an ordinary great emperor. However, the terrifying sword shadow's power had increased by 1,000 times under the effect of the third volume in the secret skill of Star Palace. It was already enough to shake an ordinary great emperor to begin with. Now, its power increased had by 1,000-fold. What had happened? Just how powerful was the stroke? There was no doubt that the power of the stroke exceeded a great emperor's capability. Even Emperor Bai, who was widely known as the strongest one in Eternal Chaotic World, would find it hard to achieve such a level when he performed his strongest hit. The great emperors from Three Emperors' World who were rushing to the middle of the Golden Whirlpool were dumbfounded when they looked up at the sword shadow. Even the strongest Ling Zong and the tall and sturdy middle-aged man stood dumbfounded at the sight. Because they realized that the stroke wasn't something that the great emperors could achieve. The stroke hit the 100-jong tall, mountain-like Emperor Supreme Rock without any hindrance, the so-called Holy Crystal. The sword light hit the Holy Crystal and a terrifying power exploded. Rumble. Even a great emperor's full hit couldn't shake the mountain-like Emperor Supreme Rock, but it was quivering vigorously under the sword light. There was a vigorous quivered then. Crack, crack. There were soft cracking noises and all the cultivators in Three Emperors' World stared with eyes wide opened. The cracks on the Emperor Supreme Rock became visible and the cracks became wider. In the end, the Emperor Supreme Rock shattered. Emperor Supreme Rock shattered. Chapter 2045 Anger. Shatter. When the top experts from Three Emperors' World, who were rushing over, saw the scene where the Emperor Supreme Rock had shattered, their eyes were wide open. Some of the great emperors even stood there dumbfounded. Emperor Supreme Rock. That was the holy crystal that the Three Emperors' World worshipped. Over the years, it had been towering within the Golden Whirlpool. It could be said that everything in Three Emperors' World relied on the Emperor Supreme Rock. But then, the Emperor Supreme Rock had shattered. No. The beast-like bald man, Ling Zong, let out a hysterical roar. His eyes were filled with boundless murderous intention and he looked at the figure located in the depths of the Golden Whirlpool. Coincidentally, the figure turned around to look at Ling Zong and the others who were there. Their gazes met. Jian Wushuang smiled and said, "Everyone in Three Emperors' World, long time no see. How have you been?" When the great emperors from Three Emperors' World saw Jian Wushuang, they were instantly stunned. Jian Wushuang? It's him. How could it be possible? Impossible. He died. We killed him. He died right in front of us. How could he be alive? There was one hysterical bellow after another. The great emperors couldn't believe what they were seeing. They had seen Jian Wushuang's divine body collapse with their own eyes and he was dead. But then, Jian Wushuang didn't die. Not only did he not die, but he has been hiding in the Golden Whirlpool. Now, he has even destroyed the Golden Whirlpool and the Holy Crystal. D***MN. After astonishment, everyone was raging with anger. The way the great emperors from Three Emperors' World looked at Jian Wushuang showed their murderous intention. They wanted to tear Jian Wushuang apart. D***MN. Die. After a loud scream, the three great emperors who were guarding the golden whirlpool plunged towards Jian Wushuang under the lead of the red-headed elder. They were the closest to Jian Wushuang. Naturally, they were the first to take action. As for Ling Zong and the others, they had yet to reach the scene. Looking at the three great emperors charging at him, Jian Wushuang lifted the corners of his lips and formed a cold smirk. Blood Mountain sword in his hand drew a unique arc in the void in front of him. The shrill, cold sword light appeared in front of the three great emperors almost instantly. The stroke that Jian Wushuang performed was the move that focused on speed the most in Shen Luo sword principle, turn monstrous at one thought. As it was a move that focused on speed the most, it was traveling forward with a terrifying power then. Clang, clang, clang. There were three clangs and the three great emperors who were charging at Jian Wushuang suddenly stopped. Then, they even took a few steps back. Yes. With one stroke, the three great emperors were beaten off. How is this possible? The three of them looked up in astonishment. Jian Wushuang continued to smile. Then, his figure went illusionary and he wielded his sword again. Then, Jian Wushuang performed the most powerful move in Shen Luo sword principle, blast rainstorm. Hong. It was a move like strong wind with the momentum of rainstorm. As Jian Wushuang performed it with divine power, the power became even more ridiculously powerful. Let's fight against him at the same time, the red-headed elder immediately roared with a flash of terror in his eyes. The three great emperors were experienced. They naturally could tell how powerful Jian Wushuang's stroke was. Hence, they immediately took action together to block. The three of them joined forces to resist Jian Wushuang's stroke. But in the end, humph. The three of them let out a muffled humph at the same time and they flew backward from the impact. Besides the red-headed elder, the other two had blood flowing out of the corners of their lips. He is so powerful. The red-headed elder was astonished. However, when Jian Wushuang performed the sword principle to attack the three of them, his other hand, which had been left idle, casually slapped in the direction in which the three of them had retreated. The slap immediately brought about a terrifying handprint that seemed to contain boundless reincarnation. It was the reincarnation palm that Jian Wushuang comprehended. The palm covered the void where the three of them were. The three great emperors couldn't dodge at all. Hong. The universe became silent and the entire void cracked. The three great emperors that were engulfed by the reincarnation palm turned into flowing light and burst out. As they burst out, their faces grew pale and their auras were obviously much weaker than before. In merely 2 breaths of time, the three great emperors who had besieged Jian Wushuang were severely injured. Just then, Ling Zong and the others rushed over at their top speeds from Imperial Cabinet arrived. Jian Wushuang. Ling Zong stared and his face distorted. He was just like a raging lion. He roared and charged to the front. He instantly turned into a huge beast and pounced at Jian Wushuang. Just as he approached Jian Wushuang, he clenched his battle axe with both his hands. Vroom. The color of the universe changed. There was a huge, dark, terrifying axe shadow that appeared in the void above. It was slashing at Jian Wushuang. When the axe shadow descended, it broke the universe apart and it became yin and yang. Jian Wushuang was right below the terrifying axe shadow. He lifted his head and took a look at the descending axe shadow. Then, he smiled faintly. We shall see if your axe skill is great or if my sword principle is stronger by a notch, Jian Wushuang said and wielded his sword. A resplendent sword shadow suddenly lit up. Shen Luo sword principle, the one that focused on power the most. Blast rainstorm. The same sword principle performed by the same person. However, the difference was that Jian Wushuang had let his divine power and his ancient tribe bloodline power pour out to his limit. His power and strength, which were above any ordinary great emperor's, exploded. Bang! There was a loud bang. Both parties collided in the void. Then, a huge space-time black hole spread open mercilessly. In an instant, it swallowed the surrounding universe. The surrounding void drowned within. In the middle of the space-time black hole, there was a figure that staggered and retreated. He took more than a dozen steps back and every single step was 10,000 li apart. He finally stopped with great effort. This person was the beast like a bald man, Ling Zong. This Ling Zong looked at his quivering battle axe after he steadied himself. He was greatly astonished. He couldn't believe everything that had happened. He went all out to compete for power against Jian Wushuang, and had lost. Had retreated from one stroke of Jian Wushuang's attack. How was this possible? This be asterisk starred. Ling Zong stared at Jian Wushuang. In his head, he recalled the 2 times when Head came across Jian Wushuang. Chapter 2046 Vented Anger. Ever since Jian Wushuang had come to Three Emperors' World, Ling Zong had met him thrice. The first time, there were 6 great emperors that had besieged Jian Wushuang in Silver-Winged God Mansion. Then, Jian Wushuang's power was merely at ordinary great emperor level. He didn't care about Jian Wushuang. At most, Jian Wushuang was only scary in terms of his defense power. Hence, the 6 great emperors besieged him but could do nothing to him. The second time was 30 years back. During the war, Jian Wushuang had once fought against him. Jian Wushuang was his match then. Now it was the 3rd time Head fought against Jian Wushuang. They fought head-on again and he went all out. However, he was beaten back by Jian Wushuang with 1 stroke. What's going on? If he hadn't known about Jian Wushuang's background and situation, he would have suspected Jian Wushuang had been hiding his true power since the beginning. In merely tens of years of time, one who only had ordinary great emperor power that he didn't care about had advanced by leaps and bounds to beyond his power. Hehe, I thought you were amazing. But from what it seems now, you're SOSO, Jian Wushuang smiled faintly at Ling Zong. Ling Zong was triggered and spat, let's fight against him all together. I don't believe that we can't kill him. Then, Long Zong attacked again. At the same time, the great emperors around him charged at Jian Wushuang with billowing murderous intention, including the 3 great emperors, who were severely injured by Jian Wushuang. Hence, the scene where 13 great emperors joined forces to besiege one person 30 years ago reappeared. The person who was besieged was still Jian Wushuang. However, 30 years had passed. Jian Wushuang was no longer the person had been before. Naturally, the situation was different. Haha, come on. During the last fight, we didn't fight a hearty battle. This time, I shall play with all of you heartily. Jian Wushuang laughed as he was emboldened. Compared to 30 years ago, his divine body had improved tremendously and the same applied to his divine power. If it was said that there were 13 great emperors who had joined forces to besiege him back then and it would take them a while to possibly kill him. He might not even have been killed if the 13 great emperors joined forces to besiege him for 3 days and 3 nights straight. On top of that, Jian Wushuang's current power was on an entirely different level. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Jian Wushuang continuously wielded Blood Mountain's sword on the battlefield with billowing force. The sword principle that he performed had 4 moves. It was the 4 moves in Xian Luo sword principle. However, the 4 moves were like one. It was simply perfect. The 13 great emperor performed various powerful attacks. Jian Wushuang would block it if he could. If he couldn't, he would resist it by using his divine body directly. The sword principle that he performed was shocking. Be careful. Don't fight head-on with him. He is too powerful. This be asterisk starred. I am a great emperor and I was severely injured by 1 stroke of his when I fought him head-on. He is every more powerful than Ling Zong. Hurry up and dodge. There were angry roars and shrill screams on the battlefield. The ones who made the noises were naturally the 13 great emperors from Three Emperors' World. They fought with their all. They besieged Jian Wushuang just like they had done 30 years ago. However, they had realized that the situation was entirely different from 30 years ago. 30 years ago, Jian Wushuang was suppressed. He was only on the defensive and taking hits. He had survived for so long only because of his defensive power. But then, although he was still suppressed, Jian Wushuang had the power to counterattack. Every time he fought back, the sword principle was ridiculously powerful. Besides Ling Zong and the tall and sturdy middle-aged man who could barely block it, the other great emperors would be severely injured if they were to take the hit alone. Hence, from the beginning of the fight until then, it was less than 10 breaths time, but there were 2 people who were severely injured among the 13 great emperors. Their fighting power was badly damaged. On the contrary, Jian Wushuang was still perfectly intact and he was energetic. His fighting power was terrifying too. The great emperors began to panic. In the void far from the battlefield, the cultivators in early and middle stage chaotic realm on Imperial Peak were astonished by the fight. They were watching the battle in disbelief. Isn't that the person who was killed by the great emperors back then? Yeah, it's him. He intentionally disguised himself as an ordinary cultivator in early stage chaotic realm and entered Imperial Peak back then. But he died 30 years back. Now, not only is he not dead, but he has also become stronger. He is ridiculously powerful. The 13 great emperors in peak chaotic realm joined forces but couldn't capture him. On top of that, they were injured by him in such a short time span. His power, many of them gasped in admiration. Among the crowd, the most astonished person was Lin Tianhao. He looked at Jian Wushuang, who was invincible like a demon, and he shivered in fear. Monster. This show is simply a monster, Lin Tianhao muttered. In the middle of the battlefield. Bang! Jian Wushuang's sword that brought about boundless power slashed at a great emperor's divine weapon again. The great emperor's body quivered and he spat a mouthful of blood. Then, he quickly fell down. Another great emperor was severely injured by Jian Wushuang again. Haha, such a hearty fight. Jian Wushuang's hysterical laughter spread. In the 2 previous fights, I was suppressed and hit. I felt so aggrieved. Now, I can finally teach you a lesson and vent my anger. Jian Wushuang felt great. It was true that he had been dogged by these great emperors relying on his advantage of having near immortality during the last 2 fights. In other words, he was plainly being hit. He had been full of misery during the last 2 fights. He naturally felt aggrieved. However, he wasn't powerful enough. He had no choice but to be beaten up. Now, it was different. During the fight, although he was still mainly taking hits, at least he could counterattack. On top of that, he had injured a few of them. If it continued, he wouldn't die and the great emperors in front of him would be injured by him one by one. To be able to do that, Jian Wushuang considered taking revenge. I vented my anger and taught you a lesson. I shall not fool around with you anymore. Jian Wushuang sneered. He suddenly plunged to the front. Want to leave? The surrounding great emperors instantly responded when they saw Jian Wushuang's actions. Stop him. We absolutely can't let him escape. Ling Zong roared. The great emperors from 3 Emperors' World looked glum and charged at Jian Wushuang madly. Jian Wushuang smirked in disdain at the sight. 30 years ago, you could have stopped me. But now, no one can stop me if I want to leave. Chapter 2047 Take action personally. I want to leave and no one can stop me, Jian Wushuang said with absolute confidence. His confidence wasn't only because his current power could make him fearless under the besiegement of the 13 great emperors, but more importantly, because the Emperor Supreme Rock had shattered. Not only was the Emperor Supreme Rock the source of energy that drove the Dark Millstone, it was also the main factor of the great formation surrounding Imperial Peak and Imperial City. Once the Emperor Supreme Rock shattered, the great formation in Imperial Peak and Imperial City would simply be nothing. Without the surrounding great formation, the 13 great emperors wanted him to stay? That was simply a joke. Go away. Jian Wushuang let out an angry roar. His voice contained boundless power as though the universe was angry. There were originally 4 great emperors in front of him. However, when they saw that Jian Wushuang had filled the air with terrifying sword intention, they pounced forward. Step back. Hurry up and retreat. The 4 great emperors retreated without hesitation. Even when 4 great emperors joined forces, they wouldn't have the courage to stop Jian Wushuang. Rubbish. Ling Zong, who was following Jian Wushuang, saw it and he cursed. However, he was sure that even if the 4 great emperors were to block Jian Wushuang, they would only be beaten back by Jian Wushuang in an instant. Hong. Jian Wushuang was raging with anger. He plunged out of Imperial City directly. The 13 great emperors followed Jian Wushuang but they were merely following him. After a short while, Gen Wushuang escaped from Imperial Peak and left Imperial City. He continued to plunge into the boundless, vast region in Three Emperors' world. The 13 great emperors could do nothing about him. Ling Zong. The tall and sturdy middle-aged man flying alongside with Ling Zong looked distressed. Gen Wushuang is much stronger than 30 years ago. We can't stop him, report to the higher-ups. Ling Zong's body quivered. His eyebrows were tightly knitted. Even though he was unwilling to yield, he knew that whatever the tall and sturdy middle-aged man said was true. Report then. Ling Zong sighed and took out a token to send a message. In the dark void, the 3 overlords sat there. Then, the 3 of their faces grew grave. They were in the dark millstone. The 3 of them were controlling the dark millstone. But as the Emperor Supreme rock shattered and the dark millstone lost its energy source, it completely stopped. If they couldn't find another huge Emperor Supreme rock, they wouldn't make the dark millstone move again. Gen Wushuang didn't die. The brawny Demon King let out an earth-shaking roar. He stared and said, "That bunch of rubbish. What did they do 30 years ago? Didn't they say that they killed Gen Wushuang? Why is he still living well right now? He even broke the Emperor Supreme rock. He destroyed the Emperor Supreme rock and he left Imperial Peak and Imperial City openly. Ling Zong and the other 12 in Peak Chaotic Realm couldn't stop him, but they have to get help from us? Rubbish. A bunch of rubbish." Demon King cursed and roared. The blurry bloodman next to him gave out a chilly aura. "We put in so much time and effort in building the Dark Millstone, but Gen Wushuang ruined it. Our hard word is in vain. Gen Wushuang deserves to die." Demon King and the blurry bloodman harbored great hatred against Gen Wushuang. Only Lung Rukshu's eyes were twinkling with a different emotion. She kept quiet for a while before she spoke. "As it already happened, it's too late for us to complain. Let's think about what we should do next. As the Dark Millstone stopped, Sanctuary Alliance will definitely take action. We'd better get ready." Millimeter. Demon King nodded in agreement and he calmed down. "How about this? The 2 of you stay here and deal with Sanctuary Alliance. As for Gen Wushuang, I'll take care of him personally. I'd like to see how powerful is this Gen Wushuang. Why the 13 great emperors from Three Emperors' world could do nothing about him." Then, Demon King didn't care about Lung Rushue and the blurry bloodman's respond but plunged to Three Emperors' world immediately. The blurry bloodman didn't bother much, but Lung Rukshu's eyes dilated in shock. She originally intended to fight against Gen Wushuang, but Demon King took the initiative and went ahead. She naturally didn't speak. "Gen Wushuang, oh, Gen Wushuang. You didn't 30 years ago under that kind of situation. You are impressive. It seems like I really belittled you." Lung Rushue muttered, but she smirked in a malicious smile. Three Emperors' world was in complete chaos. In the palace in the nearby void around the Dark Millstone, the great emperors who were the higher-ups of Sanctuary Alliance gathered there. Emperor Bai was naturally the leader. The great emperors from Sanctuary Alliance were gathered by Emperor Bai in a sudden. Most of them attended in their consciousness incarnation. Then, all of them looked confused as they didn't know why Emperor Bai suddenly gathered them. When everyone was there, Emperor Bai spoke and looked around. "I have something to tell all of you." The Emperor Supreme rock shattered. The Dark Millstone stopped. "What?" A tossed stone raised 1,000 ripples. The surrounding great emperors looked astonished. Ever since 30 years ago, when they found out that the 4 members troop that they sent fell into the enemy's trap and both Gen Wushuang and Great Emperor Ji Luo died, they didn't have any hope about destroying the Emperor Supreme rock. On the contrary, they focused all their effort on gathering experts and bringing the powerful ones in eternal chaotic world. However, they had yet to fully prepare after 30 years, but Emperor Bai told them that the Emperor Supreme rock was shattered and the Dark Millstone had stopped. They were in disbelief at first when they heard the news. But they finally confirmed when they checked the Dark Millstone. The Dark Millstone isn't moving anymore. It really stopped. Haha, it really stopped. The great emperors were thrilled in happiness. Some even shed tears of joy. The Dark Millstone was a really big threat against eternal chaotic world. If it continued to spin, the entire eternal chaotic world would vanish into thin air and it wouldn't take long for it to happen. Hence, They had been very anxious and they had been thinking of ways for the dark millstone to stop. They already put in a lot of hard work to make it happen. Then, when they found out that the dark millstone finally stopped, how could they not feel surprised? Of course, they were also confused when they were surprised. Chapter 2048 Demon King Chen Yu. Mr. Emperor Bai, what's going on? Yes, who destroyed the Emperor Supreme Rock? Who would be so capable as to be able to destroy the Emperor Supreme Rock in Three Emperors' World's lair? The confused and curious gazes fixed upon Emperor Bai. The one who destroyed the Emperor Supreme Rock was Jian Wushuang, Emperor Bai replied. Jian Wushuang? How is that possible? Didn't Jian Wushuang die? How could he destroy the Emperor Supreme Rock? He didn't die. The great emperors were shocked and they expressed their disbelief. Emperor Bai explained, Jian Wushuang didn't die. As for the reason and process, it is inconvenient for me to tell you. In short, Jian Wushuang destroyed the Emperor Supreme Rock and the Dark Millstone stopped because of that. Jian Wushuang is in the Three Emperors' World and he is being chased after by a large bunch of experts from Three Emperors' World. Hence, Sanctuary Alliance has to send experts in to take him on immediately. Millimeter, Sword Emperor destroyed the Emperor Supreme Rock. In short, he saved the entire eternal chaotic world. Now that he is being chased after, we, of course, have to go and get him, Ancestor Tian Chen was the first to reply. It's an obligation we won't shirk. We have to bring Jian Wushuang back. The other great emperors stood up one after another. Although some of the great emperors had borne grudges against Jian Wushuang before, they would cast their personal resentment aside before their enemies. Jian Wushuang had performed extraordinary deeds. As he was in danger, they, of course, had to go all out to save him. I already got in touch with Jian Wushuang through Emperor Zhu Qiao's doppelganger. He will come to this region at his fastest speed. Emperor Bai waved and a huge constellation map appeared in the void in front of them. Emperor Zhu Qiao drew the constellation map. It was the result of Emperor Zhu Qiao being in hiding in the Three Emperors' World for 30 years. All god mansions and regions in Three Emperors' World were recorded on the constellation map. Emperor Bai pointed at the region called Bronze Heart. The Bronze Heart region was located at the border of Three Emperors' World. Then, the Dark Millstone stopped and the surrounding Great Formation had already stopped spinning. The higher-ups in Sanctuary Alliance could barge into Three Emperors' World directly. They could pierce the outer layer of the pavilion and reached Bronze Heart region easily. Depart immediately. Rush there at your fastest speed, Emperor Bai commanded. Understood, the surrounding great emperors nodded simultaneously. Mr. Emperor Bai, how about you? Are you going personally? Red Dragon King suddenly looked at Emperor Bai. I have a more important task to do, Emperor Bai replied. The great emperors didn't pursue further. Then, the original body of all great emperors gathered at their fastest speeds. Then, they departed to Three Emperors' World. Emperor Bai watched the great emperors leave and his eyes were glistening in a strange way. In Three Emperors' World, Jian Wushuang rushed out of Imperial City and continued to plunge forward. He had been flying for more than half a day and he had passed many regions. Sword Emperor, Emperor Bai told me to inform you that everything is going according to plan. Emperor Zhu Qiao sent a message over. Great. Jian Wushuang smiled and he looked behind him. The total of 13 great emperors were following Ling Zong and the tall and sturdy middle-aged man's lead, continuing to chase after him closely. These guys are so persistent. Jian Wushuang smiled. The 13 great emperors wouldn't be a threat to him. However, Jian Wushuang knew that the 13 great emperors definitely had another purpose in following behind him when they knew they could do nothing about him. As expected, just as Jian Wushuang crossed into another region, dong, 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 there were heavy footsteps from the void in front. The footsteps were obviously from someone stomping on the void and rushing over. The power of every single step was extremely powerful. Jian Wushuang immediately lifted his head and realized that there was a 2-meter-tall brawny man with bronze skin that appeared at the end of his sight. The brawny man was muscular and had a mustache and beard. His hair was all over the place too. He looked just like a savage man. as the savage man plunged over from the void in front. Every footstep shattered boundless void below his feet. There was a terrifying rage that spread from him. Even Jian Wushuang was shocked when he felt the rage approaching him. This person. Jian Wushuang stared at the savage man who was getting closer. His gut feeling told him that the person in front of him was very scary. He was far scarier than the 13 great emperors behind him combined. However, the 13 great emperors behind Jian Wushuang were thrilled when they saw him. It's Demon King. Mr. Demon King has come. Haha, Mr. Demon came personally. Jian Wushuang will be dead. Mr. Demon King, how long has it been since we've seen him descend personally? The great emperors looked at the savage man with boundless enthusiasm and worship. The same applied to Ling Zong. Are you Jian Wushuang? The savage man spoke in a loud and bright voice. He stopped right in front of Jian Wushuang and looked down at Jian Wushuang with his cold gaze. His boundless might pressed onto Jian Wushuang at the first instant. Who are you? Jian Wushuang's face was solemn as he stared at the savage man in front. I am Chen Yu. You can also call me Demon King Chen Yu, the savage man said coldly. Jian Wushuang, I have heard things about you. I have to admit that you are truly a top genius. I'm afraid there aren't many who have greater talent than you from the era I'm from. But it's a pity that you and I are not on the same side. So, I can only let you die. Demon King Chen Yu's voice reverberated through the universe. As Demon King Chen Yu spoke, he moved. There was a great distance to get to Jian Wushuang, but Demon King took a huge stride and he appeared in front of Jian Wushuang. At the same time, he clenched his hand and a huge fist instantly broke the air. It brought about a boundless demonic cloud and broke everything in front of Jian Wushuang. Then, it slashed at Jian Wushuang's face. So fast. There was a flash of shock in Jian Wushuang's eyes, but he instantly recovered. Humph. Jian Wushuang humphed coldly and wielded his sword. There was a unique sword intention that soared up. Then, Jian Wushuang turned into a huge whirlpool that swallowed everything. Xian Luo sword principle. Mixed elements spirit. Bang. There was a loud bang. The huge fist collided with Jian Wushuang's sword light brutally. A terrifying power suddenly exploded. Chapter 2049 Demon King's Power. At the very moment when both parties collided, Jian Wushuang could distinctly feel an unprecedented power pounding at him madly. Even if Jian Wushuang performed mixed element spirit with his all, he wouldn't be able to resist the power. There would still be parts of the power that would transmit to Jian Wushuang's divine body through his hands. Jian Wushuang's divine power was extremely fierce, but he had suffered some damage. Although his divine body had instantly recovered with the operation of divine power, Demon King Chen Yu's punch did cause damage to his divine body. On top of that, Demon King Chen Yu's fist didn't hit his body but merely collided with his sword principle. The impact injured his divine body. Such power would absolutely be a notch stronger than when Jian Wushuang exploded his full power. It seems that I belittled Three Emperors' world. The Three Emperors' world has even scarier great emperors. Jian Wushuang's gaze was cold. His figure quivered, he stood steadily in the void. Then, he suddenly turned illusionary. He was just like a spirit. Jian Wushuang appeared next to Demon King Chen Yu and there was a sharp gleam from Blood Mountain sword. The chilly gleam surged and there was a drop of blood faintly condensing on the tip of the blade. Xian Luo sword principle, the move that focused on instant explosion and piercing, the name of the move was Extreme Blood. Such a joke. Demon King Chen Yu smirked in disdain. Then, he waved and a large dark cloud came over. The cold sword light that Jian Wushuang had performed was smashed by a large demonic region before it appeared before Demon King Chen Yu. The power was diminished tremendously and in the end, the entire stroke shattered. To be able to take a punch of mine head-on, not too shabby. But in the end, you still have to die. Demon King Chen Yu's demonic power was impressive. Just as he spoke, his originally 2-meter-tall figure suddenly increased and became 10 jong tall. His skin turned into an ancient bronze color and he had a total of 8 arms that extended outwards. The 8 arms were holding various weapons. There was a broadsword, a huge club, a bronze mirror, a large seal. In between Demon King Chen Yu's eyebrows, the third eye suddenly opened and it was hanging vertically. There was a crimson glow to it and it could charm anyone. Die! Demon King Chen Yu roared and his 8 arms moved at the same time. He instantly came before Jian Wushuang and the various divine weapons swept down. The broadsword tainted the surrounding void with blood and the broadsword continuously magnified and covered the sky. It formed overlapping sword shadows and they instantly slashed. The black club was brutal. It turned into a bolt of black lightning and suddenly struck. The bronze mirror gave out a purple ray of light. The purple light contained an extermination aura and it charged at Jian Wushuang. The seal was originally an ordinary seal. As the yellowish-brown power filled the air, the seal turned into a huge mountain and crushed down on Jian Wushuang. The 8 various divine weapons in Demon King Chen Yu's hands were performing different tricks. Their powers were all terrifying. Looking at the intense attack, Jian Wushuang was shocked but not fearful. Vroom! Jian Wushuang's divine body grew tremendously too. Then, he had 9 heads and 18 arms that popped up instantly. All 18 arms were holding swords. Come on! He roared. Jian Wushuang and Demon King Chen fought fiercely. Even though Jian Wushuang had 18 arms and his opponent only had 8, so he looked like he had the upper hand. But in actual fact, the 18 arms increased Jian Wushuang power to a limit. However, Demon King Chen Yu's was different. His 8 arms wielded various types of divine weapons and could perform the power of the divine weapon flawlessly and fiercely. Bang! 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 There were continuous loud bangs and the entire universe was in a divine power storm. There was a terrifying power and aura that constantly spread, which caused the 13 great emperors who were watching near the battlefield to be fearful. There was no doubt that Jian Wushuang's power was beyond Ling Zong's or any one of the 13 great emperors. Then, Demon King Chen Yu, who was fighting against him, was even scarier. He was one of the 3 emperors that 3 emperors worship. Hong! There was another roar. On the battlefield, Jian Wushuang looked solemn. This person, he is so powerful. He is at least a dozen times stronger than Ling Zong. He is much stronger than me too. I am suppressed when I fight against him. Jian Wushuang was in disbelief. After he had broken through and gotten to the 2nd stage, his power had increased tremendously. Even when the 13 great emperors joined forces, he could be fearless and he could even injure them. With his power, he thought that besides Emperor Bai, Emperor 13 and those ancient old monsters who were in a deep sleep and yet to wake up, there couldn't be anyone who could be his match in eternal chaotic world. However, Demon King Chen Yu before him was stronger than him. Much stronger than him. There's such a powerful expert in 3 emperors' world. Jian Wushuang muttered and he had already thought of retreating. He knew that his power wasn't as strong as his opponent's and there were 13 great emperors waiting at the side. Jian Wushuang wouldn't continue to fight against Demon King Chen Yu stupidly. There was a billowing divine power with an ancient tribe bloodline power that exploded from Jian Wushuang. Behind Jian Wushuang, there were lofty ancient tribe shadows. There seemed to be more than 100 or 1,000 shadows. Ancient god unique skill, universal laws. Die! Jian Wushuang slapped and reincarnation palm flew forward. The ancient god shadows behind him followed his actions and slapped their palms forward. Every palm contained boundless power. The palms moved to bury Demon King Chen Yu simultaneously. As for Jian Wushuang, he retreated as the universal laws performed. Go away! Demon King Chen Yu's power increased and the 8 arms waved continuously to shatter the palms moving toward him. At the same time, he saw Jian Wushuang retreating. You can't escape. Demon King Chen Yu was soaring with murderous intention. Just as he roared, one of his 8 arms clenched a jade ruler. The jade ruler merged with the universe and there was yellow sand that instantly swept out. The boundless sand swept out in madness. It instantly formed a huge yellow sand prison that covered the universe. It naturally covered Jian Wushuang too. Chapter 2050 Yellow Sand Realm. Demon King Chen Yu is pretty impressive. Jian Wushuang's face grew glum as he looked at the surrounding yellow sand realm. He could feel how sturdy the Yellow Sand Realm was. Within the Yellow Sand Realm, an ordinary Great Emperor or even a Great Emperor that was on Ling Zong level might not stand a chance to escape. However, Jian Wushuang was different. "You want to make me stay with that kind of trick? You're dreaming," Jian Wushuang roared. He waved his 18 arms at the same time and slashed at the Yellow Sand Realm. It was a round of brutal hits. The fierce sword lights slashed at the Yellow Sand Realm and it began to quiver vigorously. However, it wasn't damaged. Jian Wushuang didn't give up but instantly began his second round of attacks. "Boy, die." Just as Jian Wushuang attacked the Yellow Sand Realm crazily, Demon King Chen Yu appeared behind him and there was a fierce attack that instantly descended. Jian Wushuang had no choice but to block Demon King's attack while he figured out a way to break the Yellow Sand Realm. Their fight was extremely fierce. Outside the Yellow Sand Realm, Ling Zong and the other 13 Great Emperors were watching. They could see the huge Yellow Sand Realm in front of them. However, they didn't know what was happening within the Yellow Sand Realm. They couldn't see with their naked eyes, nor could they probe with their soul power. They could only hear the terrifying roars and clanging noises from the Yellow Sand Realm that struck fear into them. The roaring continued for dozens of breaths of time. Finally, Hong! There was another loud bang. There was a huge hole that tore open on the Yellow Sand Realm. Jian Wushuang plunged out of the hole and leaped. Demon King Chen Yu looked angry and he reined back Yellow Sand Realm as Jade Ruler. He went to pursue Jian Wushuang again. As Demon King Chen Yu was chasing after him, he commanded, "Immediately arrange for people to set up in front to stop Jian Wushuang. Otherwise, we'll likely lose him." Demon King Chen Yu was offended when he gave that command. He was taking care of Jian Wushuang personally. Since he was Jian Wushuang personally, he was determined to win. However, after the vigorous fight in the Yellow Sand Realm, Demon King Chen Yu wouldn't be able to kill Jian Wushuang by himself. "This boy's defense is too strong." Demon King Chen Yu clenched his hands and he was still thinking of the scene that had happened in the Yellow Sand Realm. In the Yellow Sand Realm, Jian Wushuang was fighting with him while he was thinking of a way to break the Yellow Sand Realm in the beginning. But not long after, Jian Wushuang seemed to see how sturdy the Yellow Sand Realm was and he knew that he would need a long time to break the realm if he continued to fight. Hence, he made an insane decision, which was to ignore Demon King Chen Yu's attack. He didn't bother about Demon King Chen Yu's brutal attacks and let them hit his divine body. Jian Wushuang focused on the Yellow Sand Realm directly. After a few rounds of attack, he finally broke a hole in the Yellow Sand Realm. As he was trying to break into the Yellow Sand Realm, he took almost 100 of Demon King Chen Yu's attacks. Based on Demon King Chen Yu's terrifying power, if one hit of his were to land on the divine body of an ordinary Great Emperor, those who had weaker defense powers would have been dead. Even those who were stronger wouldn't survive after 2 to 3 hits. However, Jian Wushuang had taken almost 100 of Demon King Chen Yu's hits. Just how insane was his defense power? With Jian Wushuang's defense power, as long as he wasn't stupid enough to fight vigorously with Demon King Chen Yu, he could totally escape. Hence, Demon King Chen Yu commanded the Great Emperors in Three Emperors' World to stop Jian Wushuang at the front. As long as they trapped Jian Wushuang and left him no chance to escape, no matter how powerful his defensive power was, he would reach his limit. By then, it would be Jian Wushuang's death. Jian Wushuang looked like he was still at his peak and his aura wasn't weakened at all. On top of that, his running speed was equally shocking. But he looked extremely solemn. Demon King Chen Yu's attack power is so strong, Jian Wushuang muttered. He couldn't help but steal a glance at Demon King Chen Yu behind him. After he reached the second stage, his divine power had increased tremendously again. In addition to 5 gem armor, his defense power was terrifyingly powerful. If it was an ordinary Great Emperor or an extremely powerful Great Emperor, like Ling Zong, who hit him, it would just feel like a scratch. He wouldn't care much about it. Even if there were 100 attacks, he could be at ease. However, Demon King Chen Yu's 100 attacks in the Yellow Sand region severely injured his divine body. Although his severely injured divine body could be quickly recovered with his divine power. Jian Wushuang's divine power had expanded tremendously. During the time in the Yellow Sand realm, Zhen Wushuang's divine power had gone by 30%. If a similar situation were to happen a few more times, he was afraid that he couldn't take it. However, luckily, he escaped from the Yellow Sand realm. Then, Demon King Chen Yu was only following behind him. Even if he caught up with him, he wouldn't be able to stop him. Now, I only need to figure out a way to get to the border of Three Emperors' world and meet up with the experts of Sanctuary Alliance, Zhen Wushuang muttered, and there was a strange gleam twinkling in his eyes. He plunged at a high speed. Judging from his travel direction, he was obviously charging at Bronze Heart region. Bronze Heart region was a region closest to the border in Three Emperors' world. Emperor Bai commanded the Great Emperors in Sanctuary Alliance to rush to Bronze Heart region to meet with Zhen Wushuang. Then, in the vast void in Bronze Heart region, there was a total of 7 figures standing side by side. The 7 people's auras were fierce. They were all Great Emperors, and they weren't Great Emperors from Sanctuary Alliance but from Three Emperors' world. The 7 Great Emperors from Three Emperors' world floated solemnly as they looked at the sky afar. They were obviously for something. They were naturally waiting for Zhen Wushuang's arrival. However, Zhen Wushuang was still quite far away from Bronze Heart region. Even the Great Emperors from Sanctuary Alliance had just departed not long ago. They probably had yet to pass through the outer layer of the Dark Millstone to enter Three Emperor world, let alone to get to Zhen Wushuang in Bronze Heart region. However, Three Emperors world had assigned a total of 7 Great Emperors to wait there. The 7 of them who knew battle formations. Chapter 2051 Pick up. If I'm not mistaken, Zhen Wushuang will arrive in Bronze Heart region in no time. By then, the 7 of us will apply battle formation and join forces with Mr. Demon King to hem him in. Then, kill him, a lady in a white robe who stood among the 7 Great Emperors said coldly. The battle formation that the 7 of us will form is best at trapping people. As long as Zhen Wushuang comes to Bronze Heart region, no doubt, he will die. Yes, he will die. The other few Great Emperors said. They were obviously confident about their battle formation. They were waiting patiently too. The time continued to fly past. In the vast void in Three Emperors' world, Zhen Wushuang continued to plunge forward. The direction in which he was flying led to Bronze Heart region. Demon King Chen Yu and the other Great Emperors saw, and they continued to follow closely behind him. Demon King Chen Yu smirked in his heart when he saw the direction Zhen Wushuang was plunging in. Zhen Wushuang, even though you have impressive skills, your final outcome is death. You can't escape Three Emperors' world. Demon King Chen Yu knew that there were 7 Great Emperors waiting at Bronze Heart region. When Zhen Wushuang got there, he would work together with the formation of the 7 Great Emperors to take down Zhen Wushuang. That was the plan in his head. However, just as Zhen Wushuang passed another region, there were less than 3 regions to reach the Bronze Heart region. Swoosh! Zhen Wushuang suddenly plunged in another direction. He flew towards another void. What? Demon King Chen Yu suddenly grew glum. From what he saw, Zhen Wushuang should have continued to rush to the Bronze Heart region. He definitely has to go there. Emperor Bai in Sanctuary Alliance had already commanded the experts in Sanctuary Alliance to pick Zhen Wushuang up from Bronze Heart region. Emperor Bai gave a command and the Great Emperor in Sanctuary Alliance had already departed. They were really rushing to Bronze Heart region. Of course, Zhen Wushuang has to go there too. Did he do that to confuse me? Demon King Chen Yu creased his eyebrows and said. It was merely his suspicion, but it was a feasible suspicion. Zhen Wushuang's following actions cleared up his suspicion entirely. Because after Zhen Wushuang passed through another region, he continued to plunge to a region further away from Bronze Heart region. D***MN. This boy didn't intend to go to the Bronze Heart region at all. Demon King Chen Yu instantly roared in anger. At the same time, he sent a message to question him. What's going on? Didn't you say the Great Emperors in Sanctuary Alliance are going to pick him up from Bronze Heart region? Why doesn't this boy look like he is going to Bronze Heart region? However, on the other side of the communication token, the reply was simple and straightforward. He said that it was really Emperor Bai's command and the Great Emperors in Sanctuary Alliance were reaching Bronze Heart region. In other words, Emperor Bai's command was true, and the fact that great emperors in Sanctuary Alliance were going to pick up Jian Wushuang was true also. However, Jian Wushuang going to Bronze Heart region was fake. T. Demon King Chen Yu's heart skipped a beat and he instantly understood. This boy never intended to head to Bronze Heart region. Emperor Bai sent the great emperors in Sanctuary Alliance to Bronze Heart region to confuse us. They definitely found out that our spy is among the higher-ups in Sanctuary Alliance. Hence, they beat us at our own game. They used our spy to give us a piece of false information. D***MN. We were fooled. Demon King Chen Yu's face grew grave. There was no doubt that they had been schemed against by Jian Wushuang and Emperor Bai. Jian Wushuang had never thought of going to Bronze Heart region. He had been running in the direction of the Bronze Heart region because he was pretending. Now Jian Wushuang had already stepped foot in the border region of Three Emperors' world. In this region, there were two figures waiting for Jian Wushuang. The two people were Abysmal Saint Master and Emperor Zhu Qiao. The two of them who stood in the void saw Jian Wushuang appear at the end of their sights and they looked thrilled. Ha ha, Jian Wushuang, Sword Emperor. The two great emperors immediately greeted Jian Wushuang. Abysmal Saint Master, Emperor Zhu Qiao, long time no see. Jian Wushuang laughed heartily and the three of them quickly gathered. Jian Wushuang also stopped running away. As he was there, it was not necessary for him to escape anymore. Hong. Demon King Chen Yu's demonic might spread and he appeared not far from Jian Wushuang and he stopped too. Then, the total of 13 great emperors who had followed the lead of Ling Zong. They followed behind since Imperial Peak. Demon King Chen Yu and the 13 green emperors were staring at Jian Wushuang. It was as though they were going to eat Jian Wushuang alive. Jian Wushuang, you are really skillful. Since you escaped Imperial City, you have been running in the direction to Bronze Heart region. You intentionally made us think that you were running to Bronze Heart region, but in the end, you came to this region? Demon King Chen Yu's voice was cold. Humph, I knew the movements of Sanctuary Alliance so well. Why would I run to Bronze Heart region and fall into your trap again? Jian Wushuang sneered, Demon King Chen Yu, you must think him stupid. But I am certain that there's really a double agent among the higher-ups in Sanctuary Alliance because of this. Demon King Chen Yu's face grew grave but he wasn't surprised. Jian Wushuang did it on purpose. He had obviously made use of the double agent. You are not stupid, but you are too proud of yourself. You should have left Three Emperors' world without hesitation but you stopped. You gave me another chance to kill you. Demon King Chen Yu's gaze was cold and the jade ruler in his hand shined with a bright light again. The jade ruler was one of his very impressive treasures. It could turn into a sturdy yellow sand realm. However, as the yellow sand realm had been broken once, it would need some time to be repaired and used again. Now, after another round of chasing, the yellow sand realm had been repaired. He could totally perform it again. Hence, he naturally had another chance to kill Jian Wushuang. However, Jian Wushuang flashed a malicious smile when he heard what Demon King Chen Yu said. Demon King Chen Yu, I think you misunderstood something. Now, the person who should run isn't me. It should be you. Demon King Chen Yu was stunned. The next moment, at the end of the void, there was a figure in a grey robe that appeared and was slowly walking over. He had white hair and white eyes. Even his skin was terrifyingly fair. He was a man but his beautiful face would put all the women in eternal chaotic world to shame. His charming appearance with his fair skin made him look aloof. However, his arrival made Demon King Chen Yu's eyes dilate in shock. Emperor Bai. Chapter 2052 Emperor Bai came. The person who was walking over was Emperor Bai. He walked over leisurely and his footsteps were slow. However, his footsteps in the void were ringing like a heavy drumroll in Demon King Chen Yu's and the other great emperors' heads. 1 step, 2 steps, Demon King Chen Yu looked unprecedentedly solemn. Emperor Bai was a legend in eternal chaotic world. He was also widely known as the strongest one. In the beginning, Demon King Chen Yu had even turned his nose up at Emperor Bai. Because he had never fought with Emperor Bai, had never thought he would be weaker than Emperor Bai. Not long ago, he had heard from Leng Rushue that Emperor Bai had injured Lord Fen badly. Hence, he couldn't help but have scruples. Now, Emperor Bai had appeared before him. Mr. Emperor Bai. Jian Wushuang, Abysmal Saint Master, Emperor Zhu Qiao bowed to Emperor Bai. They weren't surprised by Emperor Bai's arrival because it was originally within Jian Wushuang's plan. Jian Wushuang wanted Emperor Bai to command the great emperors in Sanctuary Alliance to pick him up from Bronze Heart region so that it would mislead the experts in Three Emperors world. At the same time, Emperor Bai had to come to this region himself. Emperor Bai was the person who was truly taking Jian Wushuang. Millimeter, Emperor Bai nodded, but his eyes were fixed upon Demon King Chen Yu. Such demonic might. You should be the one from Akron Palace, Demon King Chen Yu. Am I right? You know me. Demon King Chen Yu stared at Emperor Bai. Of course, Emperor Bai smiled faintly. I know all three experts that were left back then. Among the three of you, only Lord Fen fought with me. You will be second. I wonder how your power is compared to Lord Fen. There's only one way to find out. Demon King Chen Yu was outraged. He moved and took the initiative to pounce on Emperor Bai. On the way, the divine weapons in his 8 arms suddenly swept out fiercely. His terrifying might reached its limit. Emperor Bai remained composed at the sight. However, there was a huge golden shadow that soared up behind him immediately. The golden shadow was a golden emperor. He was 99,000 zhong tall and 3,000 zhong broad. His golden eyes looked smug. He looked down as though everything living thing in the universe should yield to him. Emperor Bai fought too. His slender arms instantly raised his fists. Then, there was a condensation of explosive power. Open. A word was uttered. The golden shadow that was 99 zhong tall behind Emperor Bai clenched its right hand too and condensed boundless force. As Emperor Bai punched rumble, the void in front immediately shattered. It swept away everything. It was as though nothing, not even the universe and the space-time, could take the punch. The terrifying punch collided with the 8 divine powers that Demon King Chen Yu wielded. Bang! There was suddenly a loud bang that spread. In the middle of the battlefield, the crimson broadsword that tainted the universe red fell to the side. The originally fierce club flew to the side. The huge mountain that was transformed by the seal cracked from the middle and collapsed. Every divine weapon that brought about powerful attacks dissolved under the punch. Even Demon King Chen Yu himself took a few steps back. But then, Emperor Bai, standing in front of the 99 zhong tall golden shadow, took a stride forward. As he took the stride, rumble. The surrounding space-time pressed at Demon King Chen Yu. Demon King Chen Yu was only fighting against Emperor Bai alone. However, he felt like he was fighting against the entire universe. There was a large amount of golden light that burst out and formed a golden ocean of divine power. In the golden ocean of divine power, Emperor Bai attacked continuously. Bang! 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 There were loud bangs and every single one would strike fear in any great emperors. It constantly resounded from the core of the golden ocean of divine power. Jian Wushuang stood outside the golden ocean of divine power, but even he could feel the billowing movement. He couldn't help but feel astonished. However, the battle only took place for a short while. Swoosh! There was a figure that burst out from the golden ocean of divine power. The figure belonged to Demon King Chen Yu. The difference from before was that Demon King Chen Yu looked pale now. He had 8 arms but 2 of them were broken. His aura was obviously much weaker than before too. Humph! A cold humph reverberated in the universe. The golden ocean of divine power slowly dispersed and the scene within was slowly exposed. Emperor Bai stood there perfectly intact. The 99,000 zhong tall shadow was still there. His aura grew even more terrifying. However, he looked at Demon King Chen Yu in anger and disappointment. Demon King Chen Yu, at first I thought that if you were one of the 3 who survived, you should be on par with Lord Fen. Even if you were not much stronger than Lord Fen, you shouldn't be much weaker. However, the facts show otherwise. You are far behind Lord Fen. Emperor Bai's cold roar reverberated through the universe. When I fought Lord Fen, At least I had to take out all I had to defeat him or to even severely injure him. But you don't even make me go all out. Go away. Emperor Bai waved and the wave contained boundless might. Demon King Chen Yu stood there. He heard Emperor Bai's remark and his face was red and white from embarrassment and anger. The fire in him ignited too. However, no matter how angry he felt, he knew that he wasn't Emperor Bai's match. Hence, he would merely be humiliating himself if he were to continue the fight. Emperor Bai, I lost today. But don't be too happy about it. In no time, I will take revenge. When I do, I will bury you along with eternal chaotic world. Demon King Chen Yu bellowed and turned and plunged into the far-off void without turning back. Even Demon King Chen Yu was suppressed and he could only leave. Why would the 13 great emperors, who could do nothing to Jian Wushuang, stay back? They immediately left too. In the vast void, there was only Emperor Bai, Jian Wushuang, Abysmal Saint Master and Emperor Zhu Qiao. Emperor Bai watched Demon King Chen Yu as he left, but there was a strange light shimmering in his eyes. He muttered, the 3 experts that survived, I fought with Lord Fen and Demon King Chen Yu fought with me. Both of them lost to me. There is only Kaiser Blood who was the strongest. Kaiser Blood. I wonder when I'll get a chance to fight with him. I hope that his power is stronger than Lord Fen's and Demon King Chen Yu's. Had better not disappoint me. Chapter 2053 left 3 Emperors' World. Demon King Chen Yu and the others left. Jian Wushuang's danger naturally was resolved. Then, the 4 of them plunged out of 3 Emperors' World. In eternal chaotic world, in the vast, dark void, the dark millstone that was a few times bigger than a holy kingdom in size had already stopped spinning. In an unnoticeable corner of the dark millstone, there were a few figures that pushed through layers of prohibitions and came out. Haha, we're out. We are finally out. Abysmal Saint Master and Emperor Zhu Qiao looked at the surrounding dark void and they looked overjoyed. Jian Wushuang was filled with excitement too. Over the years, they had been wandering in 3 Emperors' World. In 3 Emperors' World's land, they had to be cautious and alert at all times. Any careless mistake and they would be doomed forever. They had finally returned to the eternal chaotic world. As they returned, they were the masters and they could finally relax. The Emperor Supreme Rock was destroyed and the Dark Millstone has been stopped entirely. Our mission was a complete success, Abysmal Saint Master said in surprise. Thanks to Sword Emperor. If it wasn't him, the few of us might not even have been able to destroy the Emperor Supreme Rock. Emperor Zhu Qiao smiled. Jian Wushuang shrugged and let out a breath of relief. It's a pity that Ji Luo won't be able to walk out of 3 Emperors' World with us. Otherwise, our mission could have been considered perfect. Hearing Great Emperor Ji Luo's name, Abysmal Saint Master and Emperor Zhu Qiao became quiet. Among the 4-member expert troupe, the 3 of them had survived, but Great Emperor Ji Luo would forever stay in 3 Emperors' World. Ji Luo died for Sanctuary Alliance. Sanctuary Alliance and also the entire eternal chaotic world won't forget about her, Emperor Bai said. Jian Wushuang, Abysmal Saint Master and Emperor Zhu Qiao nodded. This aside, Mr. Emperor Bai, how's the situation at Bronze Heart region? Jian Wushuang asked. Just as we thought, 3 Emperors' World has sent experts to wait for your arrival there. Earlier, they fought with our great emperors from Sanctuary Alliance, but I sent them a message asking them to return not long after they started fighting. I reckon they will leave 3 Emperors' World soon too, Emperor Bai smiled. The dark millstone stopped spinning and the great formation collapsed. Hence, the messages could go to and fro in the eternal chaotic world and 3 Emperors' World without any hindrance. It was unnecessary to rely on Emperor Zhu Qiao's doppelganger to send a message anymore. It's really working as such. Jian Wushuang squinted his eyes with a tinge of coldness. Jian Wushuang, your plan was wonderful. Not only did you escape from 3 Emperors' World, you also verified something for Sanctuary Alliance. That is that our enemy's spy is among the higher-ups of Sanctuary Alliance, Emperor Bai said. However, although we know that there's a spy, it is hard to determine who the spy is exactly. Emperor Bai asked in a deep voice, Jian Wushuang, Abysmal, Zhu Qiao, who do you think is suspicious? Abysmal Saint Master and Emperor Ju Qiao exchanged a glance, then both shook their heads. There is a total of 13 great emperors. There are 14, including Jian Wushuang. Putting the 4 of us aside, for now, there are 10 other great emperors and the spy is hidden among the 10 of them. As long as they didn't give themselves away, I don't think it'll be easy for us to determine, Abysmal Saint Master said. That's true. At least I won't be able to gauge who the spy is. As for a suspect, I don't have anyone in mind either, Emperor Ju Qiao said. Needless to say, among the 14 great emperors, it was impossible for Jian Wushuang and Emperor Bai to be spies. Abysmal Saint Master and Emperor Ju Qiao had known of the plan beforehand, while 3 emperors' world fell right into Jian Wushuang's trap. Hence, the 2 of them naturally weren't suspects. They could eliminate the 4 of them, but there were still 10 great emperors left. Among the 10 great emperors, Red Dragon, Tian Chen, Zi Shu, Colored Glaze. I feel like none of them are. Abysmal Saint Master creased his eyebrows. He obviously couldn't think of anyone suspicious. But then, Jian Wushuang was in deep thought. Suddenly, he spoke. Well, I suspect someone. Who? The 3 of them immediately looked at Jian Wushuang. Great Emperor Zi Shu, Jian Wushuang said. Zi Shu? Abysmal Saint Master and Emperor Ju Qiao creased their eyebrows. Great Emperor Zi Shu was an extremely ancient great emperor in Sanctuary Alliance. He never questioned any worldly affairs. Plus, his temperament and reputation was good too. Could he be a spy? Jian Wushuang, tell us your reason, Emperor Bai said. I am not certain that Great Emperor Zi Shu is a spy, but I find him suspicious. I have 2 reasons. Firstly, real god Wu Bei's death. Jian Wushuang said. Wu Bei. They looked surprised at the answer. I know about real god Wu Bei. Although he is an inverse cultivator, his talent and comprehension level are ordinary, Abysmal Saint Master said. Yes, real god Wu Bei's talent and comprehension level are SOSO. However, due to the fact that he is an inverse cultivator, if he were to really step foot in the 7th step of inverse cultivation, he would also possess the fighting power of a great emperor. He would even stand a chance to become a top great emperors, equal to you, Abysmal Saint Master, Jian Wushuang said. However, he only reached the 6th step before he died. The person who killed him was Demon Heart Kingdom Monarch, which is widely known. However, when my power reached a certain level and I went to kill Demon Heart Kingdom Monarch to take revenge on behalf of real god Wu Bei, Demon Heart Kingdom Monarch said that the reason he killed real god Wu Bei was that Great Emperor Zi Shu had commanded him to behind his back. Judging from the situation then, I don't think he was lying. The 3 of them were surprised to hear the story. Great Emperor Zi Shu had commanded Demon Heart Kingdom Monarch to kill real god Wu Bei. From what they knew, real god Wu Bei had never come across Great Emperor Zi Shu, let alone had dealings with him. On top of that, even if real god Wu Bei had really offended Great Emperor Zi Shu, he could totally have killed him directly. There was no need to go through the trouble of getting Demon Heart Kingdom Monarch to kill real god Wu Bei on his behalf. He had even told Demon Heart Kingdom Monarch to be tight-lipped. There must be a reason behind it. Jian Wushuang, what you mean is that Great Emperor Zi Shu was worried that real god Wu Bei might step foot onto the 7th step of inverse cultivation and become one of the great emperor fighting powers of Sanctuary Alliance. Hence Zi Shu killed him in secret. Emperor Bai guessed. That is the only possibility, Jian Wushuang said. Millimeter, that's possible, Abysmal Saint Master suddenly said. Mr. Emperor Bai, Sword Emperor, speaking of Zi Shu, I do find him strange. Oh! Jian Wushuang and Emperor Bai looked at Abysmal Saint Master. Sword Emperor, you know this best. Back when you had yet to step foot in the 7th step of inverse cultivation, there were some great emperors in Sanctuary Alliance, including myself, that didn't wish to see you grow. I even found ways to kill you then. Abysmal Saint Master took a glance at Jian Wushuang solemnly. Chapter 2054 The Suspect. 2054 The Suspect. Jian Wushuang raised his eyebrows and looked at Abysmal Saint Master strangely. He had shared resentment with Abysmal Saint Master before. Abysmal Saint Master had looked for an opportunity to kill him back then. However, after a trip to Three Emperors' World, their resentment had naturally been resolved. Now, both parties held no grudges. They could even be considered great friends. Jian Wushuang understood Abysmal Saint Master. Although he was jealous, he wasn't one that acted hastily. Abysmal Saint Master paused and continued, "I wanted to kill you, Sword Emperor. However, my intention was frank. All the great emperors in Sanctuary Alliance knew that I didn't want to see you grow and be above me. I wasn't hiding anything. However, Zishu was different. Before the danger of eternal chaotic world was revealed, before I really took action against you, Zishu once revealed his intention to kill you when he was talking to me. In our conversation, now that I think back, there was a tinge of incitement in his speech." Incitement? Jian Wushuang was stunned. Great Emperor Shizu wanted to kill him and had incited Abysmal Saint Master to come after him? However, Great Emperor Zishu behaved rather gently and humbly when Head met Jian Wushuang. He didn't reveal anything different. Besides Abysmal Saint Master, the other great emperors in Sanctuary Alliance couldn't have known that Great Emperor Zishu had wanted to kill him. From what I know, Zishu is laid back and gentle. He never questions the affairs in Sanctuary Alliance. He almost never takes the initiative to offend anyone, but he killed real god Wu Bei in secret and wanted to kill you, Jian Wushuang. Forget about the fact that both real god Wu Bei and you were only real gods and had never once offended him. On top of that, both of you are inverse cultivators. Now, that's interesting, Emperor Bai muttered, and his voice was cold. Of course, with that alone, we can't be certain that Zishu is a spy. It is most likely he isn't as broad-minded as we thought he was, Abysmal Saint Master said. That's true, Jian Wushuang nodded. However, I have another reason that led me to suspect him. Abysmal Saint Master, do you remember Great Emperor Colored Glaze invited you and Great Emperor Zishu to join forces to come to Greenfire World? Of course I do. I thought we were going to win for sure. We never thought that you would be so powerful and that you would have another mysterious expert who assisted you too, Abysmal Saint Master said. The mysterious expert is Lord Spirit Sound. We go way back, Jian Wushuang smiled. Back then, Lord Spirit Sound suppressed Great Emperor Zishu. However, after the battle ended, she told me that Great Emperor Zishu had intentionally held his power back. What? Abysmal Saint Master looked in shock. Zishu has been hiding his power. Emperor Bai creased his eyebrows too. Jian Wushuang's eyes contained a chilly gleam. After Lord Spirit Sound fought with Great Emperor Zishu, she had told him to be careful of Great Emperor Zishu because she could tell that Great Emperor Zishu wasn't as simple as he looked. One should know that the power that Great Emperor Zishu had put on display had already gotten him the 5th place on Eternal Chaotic World's Heaven and Earth Supreme ranking list. He was already so powerful when he held back his power. Just how strong would he be if he were to put his full power on display? It seems that Great Emperor Zishu was really not as simple as we imagined him to be, Emperor Bai said in a low voice. Although he always saw Great Emperor Zishu, he had never fought with him. Hence, he couldn't tell if he was hiding his power. However, Lord Spirit Sound was an expert from ancient times and she was powerful. Plus, she had fought with Great Emperor Zishu head-on. She definitely wouldn't come to that conclusion out of nowhere. With the two reasons and what Abysmal Saint Master said earlier, I believe that Great Emperor Zishu is the biggest suspect, Jian Wushuang said. Of course, he had only said suspect. He couldn't be sure. After all, he didn't have any evidence. As long as we have a suspect, we can slowly investigate. When we return to Sanctuary Alliance, I will investigate it personally, Emperor Bai said. Millimeter, Jian Wushuang and the other two great emperors nodded heavily. Oh yeah, one more thing. Jian Wushuang spoke again. Many years back, when I was still in the 6th step of inverse cultivation, I once went to Emperor Sword Sect when Lineage of Star was in a dangerous situation because of the news about Star Palace Master's passing. When I was on my way back, I came across a mysterious expert who tried to assassinate me. The mysterious expert was extremely strong. I believe he wasn't much weaker than Underworld God, who was in the 1st place among Emperor Gods. Plus, he had a move that exploded the fighting power of a great emperor. Back then, it was a great threat to me. Even now, I don't know who the mysterious expert was, nor do I know who sent him. However, one thing I am sure about is that he absolutely wasn't an expert from Akron Palace, because Akron Palace once attempted to assassinate me and I knew their methods. If they wanted to assassinate me, they absolutely wouldn't only send him alone. They would plan meticulously. Emperor Bai heard and nodded faintly. The expert who tried to assassinate you, I will investigate him personally as well. Holocaust sect and Akron Palace have been in the dark in eternal chaotic world for so many years. They finally took action and they are definitely well prepared. Over the years, they shouldn't have only placed 1 or 2 of their men in Sanctuary Alliance. As the Dark Millstone stopped, we of Sanctuary Alliance don't have to be in a hurry to fight them. During this time as we prepare for war, let's find out everything. Emperor Bai's eyes were gleaming. He was obviously angry. Abysmal Saint Master and Emperor Zhu Qiao saw and nodded faintly. Sanctuary Alliance and Eternal Chaotic World had been at peace for too long. In peace, there was definitely hidden decay. There were spies that the enemy had placed and it was time to root them out. As the 4 of them chatted, they returned to the buildings in the surrounding dark. Not long after the 4 of them returned, the great emperors that Emperor Bai commanded to get Jian Wushuang from Bronze Heart region returned too. These great emperors had gone and taken a trip to Bronze Heart region. However, they didn't see Jian Wushuang but had met some experts from 3 Emperors' World. Both parties had fought but it led to neither victory nor defeat. Emperor Bai had sent them a message and Thed left in time. On their way back, these great emperors were still confused as they had yet to find out the cause and effect. However, there was one person who understood. The person was naturally Great Emperor Zishu. He looked rather at ease but he was in distress. It seems that Emperor Bai has already realized that there is a spy among the higher-ups in Sanctuary Alliance, but I wonder if he will suspect me. Chapter 2055 70% winning chance. 2055 70% winning chance. After the great emperors returned to Sanctuary Alliance, they immediately received the news about Jian Wushuang's return. The great emperors were naturally surprised. Although some of them had noticed something fishy, they didn't say much. Then, Emperor Bai hosted a victory banquet at the surrounding of the Dark Millstone. The 4-member experts troop that was sent into 3 Emperors' World had destroyed the Emperor Supreme Rock and the Dark Millstone had stopped spinning. It could be described as destroying the sword above the head of countless cultivators in Eternal Chaotic World. With such a great contribution, they, of course, deserved a celebration. The banquet was extremely grand, and some Emperor gods participated too. During the banquet, many experts, including those great emperors, toasted Jian Wushuang. Even Great Emperor Colored Glaze and Yang Zun, who had once held grudges against Jian Wushuang, were sincerely celebrating with him. As for Abysmal Saint Master and Emperor Zhu Qiao, they contributed a lot too. They were well respected. After some drinking, Emperor Bai suddenly stood up and looked at all the great emperors and emperor gods. The biggest hero who stopped the Dark Millstone is Jian Wushuang. Secondly, it was Great Emperor Ji Luo who passed away. Then, Abysmal and Zhu Qiao. Come, everyone. Let's raise our glasses to the 4 of them. Everyone at the scene raised their glasses. Jian Wushuang stood up too. Then, he said in a deep voice, to Great Emperor Ji Luo, to Sanctuary Alliance, to Eternal Chaotic World. To Great Emperor Ji Luo, to Sanctuary Alliance, to Eternal Chaotic World. All the experts repeated the words and drank the wine in their hands. After they drank the last glass of wine, Emperor Bai said, although the Dark Millstone has stopped, Eternal Chaotic World's danger has never been removed. Holocaust sect and Akron Palace are still there, as well as the 3 Emperors' World with countless experts. As they have already exposed themselves, they will definitely fight Eternal Chaotic World until the very end. This war is inevitable. After today's banquet, everyone please get ready soon. The final war between Eternal Chaotic World and 3 Emperors' World will be here soon. Go ahead. Emperor Bai waved and everyone at the banquet was dismissed. After the banquet ended, Various sects and experts continued to prepare. However, as the dark millstone had stopped, the preparation wasn't as pressing as before. On the other hand, Emperor Bai started investigating the matter about the double agent in Sanctuary Alliance. The person that he focused on in his investigation was Great Emperor Zishu. Of course, his investigation was done in secret. Besides the few of them, no one else had any idea. Three Emperors' World, in the boundless dark void. Lung Rushue, Demon King Chen Yu, and the blurry bloodman known as Kaiser Blood, the three of them gathered again. Years of hard work. To prepare this dark millstone, all of us paid a great price and prepared for so many years. In the end, it was all destroyed in a day. Kaiser Blood's voice was cold with boundless anger. Demon King Chen Yu was naturally furious too. That was normal. The dark millstone was what they had intentionally prepared to wipe out all experts in eternal chaotic world. It was absolutely their killer move. The moment Thed sent out their killer move, they could have made eternal chaotic world vanish without much effort. For that, they had paid too great of a price and put in too great of an effort. Thed taken years to prepare, just for that one day. In the end, because of Jian Wushuang, their preparation had been in vain. Of course, they could only blame themselves for belittling their enemy. At first, Thed thought that the Emperor Supreme Rock was guarded by many great emperors in Imperial Peak and it would be perfectly safe. In addition, the Emperor Supreme Rock was sturdy itself. Without a certain level of power, it couldn't be cracked. Hence, they hadn't cared much about the 4 members experts troop to begin with. But Thed never expected that Jian Wushuang's power as an inverse cultivator could be so outrageous. After Head performed the secret skill of Star Palace, Head exploded a power that had exceeded the power of a great emperor and destroyed the Emperor Supreme Rock. Hence, it had led to such an outcome. It's already happened. It's too late to regret it. I'd rather we first think about what we should do next. Lung Yu Shui, who had been sitting the whole time, suddenly spoke. What to do? What can we do? Demon King Chen Yu roared and his eyes were simmering with anger. Even without the Dark Millstone, with the forces of Akron Palace, Holocaust Sect and 3 Emperors World combined, we can fight head-on with Eternal Chaotic World too. On top of that, Akron Palace is already immersed in the forces in Eternal Chaotic World. Our chances of winning are at least over 70%. If so, what are we afraid of? Let's fight head-on. Lung Rushue creased her eyebrows, then she looked to Kaiser Blood. Chen Yu is right. Without the Dark Millstone, with the 3 of our forces combined, our winning chance is still extremely high. My only concern is that there will be more accidents and we will have to bear greater losses, Kaiser Blood said. Humph, as long as we can destroy Eternal Chaotic World, we will achieve our final goal. So what if we suffer greater losses? Demon King Chen Yu humphed coldly. That's true, Kaiser Blood nodded. If so, let's get ready immediately. My 3 Emperors World has conserved strength and built energy for so many years and they are so loyal to the 3 Emperors. As soon as I send a command, the experts will immediately gather. On the other hand, the experts in Akron Palace and Holocaust Sect, are they ready? Don't worry. The experts from my Akron Palace are well prepared, Demon King Chen Yu said. My Holocaust Sect is ready too, Lung Rushue said. If so, tell them to rush over at their fastest possible speeds in order to form into a huge military force with the expert in 3 Emperors World. Then, let's fight Eternal Chaotic World, Kaiser Blood said. All right, Demon King Chen Yu and Lung Rushue nodded heavily. Oh yeah, Demon King Chen Yu. Kaiser Blood suddenly turned to look at Demon King Chen Yu. In 3 Emperors World earlier, you fought with Emperor Bai. The corner of Demon King Chen Yu's lips twitched when he heard Emperor Bai's name, but he nodded. You look like Emperor Bai taught you a lesson, huh? Kaiser Blood sneered. Humph, Emperor Bai lives up to his name as the strongest man in Eternal Chaotic World. He is much stronger than me. No wonder Lord Fen was defeated. That's normal, Demon King Chen Yu humphed. Then, he lifted his head and said, Kaiser Blood, don't be too happy. Judging from Emperor Bai's power, I'm afraid he is stronger than you too. If you were to run into him, it might not end well. Oh, I'll wait and see. Kaiser Blood smiled maliciously, and there was an eerie crimson light that surged in his empty eye sockets. The void went completely silent. Chapter 2056 Origins. 2056 Origins. After the banquet ended, Jian Wushuang naturally returned to Greenfire World. There were many experts in Greenfire World, including Jian Wushuang's family and friends. When they found out that Jian Wushuang had returned, they were naturally surprised. Although Jian Wushuang had only left for 30 years, they knew that Jian Wushuang had gone to an extremely dangerous place. Fortunately, Jian Wushuang had come back alive. After a simple gathering with his family and friends, Jian Wushuang began to cultivate again. He knew clearly what he wanted to do, which was to constantly increase his power. Then, he could protect his hometown, his family, and his friends. In the blink of an eye, 20 years flew past. In the past 20 years, no matter if it was Eternal Chaotic World or Three Emperors World, they had been preparing for the upcoming war. No one from any party would start a war before full preparation was done. At least, neither party had fought for the past 20 years. In the secret room in Wushuang City, Jian Wushuang had sat quietly as he studied the sword principles. Suddenly, vroom! There was a fierce aura that suddenly soared up from within Wushuang City. The aura was accompanied by strong divine might. Jian Wushuang was immediately shaken. He plunged towards the source of the aura without hesitation. When he got there, he saw a destroyed pavilion and a figure slowly rising. The person looked at Jian Wushuang smilingly. "Father." Jian Wushuang quickly greeted in excitement. The figure that soared up was his father, Jian Nantian. Then, Jian Nantian wasn't giving out an aura of a chaotic real god but of a Sir God level. An almighty. His father had become an almighty. "Father, congratulations," Jian Wushuang laughed. He'd seen Jian Nantian break through, and he felt even happier than at seeing his own breakthrough. Because he clearly knew what Jian Nantian's breakthrough represented. It meant that besides himself, the first almighty in Greenfire World had been born. Jian Nantian was the first among all cultivators in Greenfire World to step foot on the almighty level. With the first person becoming almighty, would the second and third almighties be far away? In no time, various forces and experts in Greenfire World rushed over. When they saw Jian Nantian break through, the experts congratulated him on his achievement. At the same time, they grew excited in anticipation. "Palace Master, congratulations." Hall Master Yuan's consciousness embodiment came to congratulate him too. Jian Wushuang smiled and then asked, "Hall Master Yuan, how is Lineage of Star doing? Has Universe Galaxy fully recovered?" "Thanks to Palace Master, the spiritual influence of heaven and earth in Greenfire World is very pure, far purer than Purple Moon Sanctuary by dozens of times. With such intense spiritual influence of heaven and earth, Universe Galaxy is almost fully recovered. It will be much more powerful than before too," Hall Master Yuan smiled. "As for Lineage of Star, everything is in order. Plus, the environment in Greenfire World has benefited the disciples of Lineage of Star too. They have improved tremendously. Now, Lineage of Star not only continuously gives birth to real gods, even almighties, we have already given birth to 2 now." "Oh!" Jian Wushuang beamed with joy. "Almighty." Back in Purple Moon Sanctuary, there were only 4 almighties in Lineage of Star, including Jian Wushuang. It was extremely difficult to even produce one. However, Lineage of Star had been at Greenfire World for less than 2,000 years, but there were already 2 almighties. The speed was naturally far beyond Purple Moon Sanctuary. "Palace Master, your lineal disciple is cultivating in seclusion too. When he exits seclusion, I reckon he should become an almighty too," Hall Master Yuan smiled and added. Jian Wushuang was surprised. He had a total of 2 lineal disciples. He had first taken in Linlan. After all, he was from ancient worlds. He had limited talents. Although he had received many resources for nurturing due to Jian Wushuang, he would at most become a chaotic real god. It was almost impossible for him to break through and become an almighty. The other one was the extremely talented He Xiu. He has extremely gifted himself. On top of that, Jian Wushuang had mentored him. He had already shown his spurs in eternal chaotic world long ago. Then, he had already reached the peak of chaotic real god. Next, he was naturally aiming for almighty level. It was within Jian Wushuang's expectations. "Oh yeah, Hall Master Yuan, regarding what I told you to check, how was it?" Jian Wushuang suddenly asked. "I got it done long ago, and I am certain that the guy, Chen who you left in the commoner's world in Qingtian Mysteryland, had already passed away 6,000 years after you left Qingtian Mysteryland," Hall Master Yuan said. "Passed away?" Jian Wushuang creased his eyebrows, but he had been mentally prepared. Chen who? Jian Wushuang had met him when he was going through his third inverse cultivation test. Then, he had lost all his divine power and become a fragile old man, so he could only go for training in a commoner's world. He had gotten to know Chen Hu there, and they had been through a lot. Chen Hu could be considered as half his disciple. Later on, he had passed his third inverse cultivation test and he had regained his power. When Head left Qingtian Mysteryland, Head left behind a test for Chen Hu. As long as he could pass the test within a time limit, he would send someone to pick him and bring him to eternal chaotic world and take him on as his disciple. After tens of thousands of years, he didn't feel anyone taking the test that Head left behind. Then, he realized that Chen Hu might have passed away. Actually, Chen Hu worked hard to improve and he was very close to passing the test that you left there. However, 6,000 years after you left, Qingtian Mysteryland went through a drastic change and stirred up a great war. Chen Hu, as the leader of one of the parties, although he fought with his all, was defeated and he passed away during the war, Hall Master Yuan reported. Jian Wushuang sighed emotionally, but he could do nothing about it. One's fate was in one's hand. Just like himself, he had been through so many life and death dangers until Head reached where he was. Greenfire World had also been through many obstacles and challenges until it could secure a standing in Eternal Chaotic World and hold such a position. If it didn't pass any threshold during the process, the ending would be entirely different. Now he was facing a similar situation. Eternal Chaotic World and Three Emperors World were going to fight a life-and-death war. As one of the peak existences in Eternal Chaotic World, he would either lead Eternal Chaotic World and defeat the other party or be vanquished alongside Eternal Chaotic World and Greenfire World. Chapter 2057 Investigation Result. 2057 Investigation Result. Greenfire World has used the painstaking efforts of the ancestors and the lives of experts to finally be where it is today. I am not going to let it ruin in my hand. Eternal Chaotic World has to win this war. Jian Wushuang clenched his hands tightly and his eyes were glaring. Just then, Jian Wushuang, "Hurry up and come to Thunderbolt Island," Emperor Bai sent him a message. Jian Wushuang was surprised. He handed down some tasks before he headed over to Thunderbolt Island. Thunderbolt Island was still the core cultivation place in Sanctuary Alliance. Although there was Greenfire World, only genius disciples from Eternal Chaotic World who got to be in Greenfire World. The experts above real god level had never once entered Greenfire World. The lowest requirement to enter Thunderbolt Island was to be a void real god. Hence, one equaled to a genius cultivation sanctuary and the other one equaled to an opportunity land for experts to gather. Both places were different. Jian Wushuang got to on Thunderbolt Island through a space-time wormhole. Then, he went directly to Sanctuary Mountain. On his way there were naturally many real gods or almighties who saw him. "It's Sword Emperor. I heard that Sword Emperor performed extraordinary deeds for Sanctuary Alliance. He is now one of the higher-ups in Sanctuary Alliance. He is holding quite a high position." Millimeter, I heard that too. There is even a rumor saying Abysmal Saint Master and Great Emperor Colored Glaze's position and power are below Sword Emperor's. Seriously? How long since Sword Emperor started cultivation? This is crazy. Many experts complimented in secret. Although it had only been 20 years since the war in Three Emperors World, Jian Wushuang had received his recognition in Sanctuary Alliance. Due to the position and power of these real gods and almighties, they didn't know much. However, among the higher-ups, the great emperors acknowledged that Jian Wushuang was only second to Emperor Bai. Sanctuary Mountain, on a huge estate. There were 3 figures waiting patiently. Very soon, Jian Wushuang arrived in the estate. Mr. Emperor Bai, abysmal, her ancestor Tian Chen is here too? Jian Wushuang was surprised as he looked at ancestor Tian Chen next to him. Jian Wushuang, Tian Chen is absolutely trustworthy. It is impossible for him to be the enemy's spy. During this time, Tian Chen and I have been investigating the spy in secret, Emperor Bai said. Jian Wushuang nodded faintly, not suspecting anything. Among the great emperors in Sanctuary Alliance, the most impossible person would be ancestor Tian Chen. Let's get into the business, ancestor Tian Chen spoke directly. Sword Emperor, abysmal, we looked to you today because there was a result from the investigation of Great Emperor Zishu. How is it? Jian Wushuang asked closely. We still can't be sure that Great Emperor Zishu is the spy. However, through some special tactics that Mr. Emperor Bai and I used to investigate him, we got some information. Both of you, take a look. Ancestor TQN Chen passed a token to Jian Wushuang and Abysmal Saint Master each. Jian Wushuang and Abysmal Saint Master looked through the tokens carefully. Their eyes dilated in shock as they went through the tokens. Seriously? Great Emperor Zishu killed so many people in secret. And all of them were top geniuses. Jian Wushuang lifted his face and his eyes were filled with shock. In the token, there was a record of various methods with which Great Emperor Zishu had killed the top geniuses in Eternal Chaotic World. There was a total of over a dozen pieces of information. In other words, Great Emperor Zishu had killed over a dozen top geniuses and all the top geniuses had stood a chance to become peak Emperor God. 3 of them could even have turned into great emperors. But in the end, they were killed by Great Emperor Zishu in secret and it was done very secretively. There was no sign pointed at him in the outside world. If it wasn't only because they already suspected Great Emperor Zishu to begin with, but also because Emperor Bai and ancestor Tian Chen used many unique ways to deal with the experts who worked for Great Emperor Zishu. They were afraid that there were more deaths that were related to Great Emperor Zishu. Lord Hatred, he was the one who killed Lord Hatred. Abysmal Saint Master creased his eyebrows. Lord Hatred was a top genius who could have swept over Eternal Chaotic World 2 million years ago. He was widely known as a super monster then. He was extremely gifted. After a short cultivation period of over 100,000 years, he reached Sir God level and he was powerful. It was said that when he first reached Sir God level, his comprehension of doctrine was on the 9th level of Doctrine Palace. In short, he was the standard of a great emperor. He was so powerful that he could easily defeat an emperor god at Sir God level. Back then, he had been extremely famous. It was merely a matter of time until he became a great emperor. He might even be on par with Red Dragon King and Abysmal Saint Master, or he might be stronger than them. However, such a super genius had suddenly passed away. Back then, the experts in Eternal Chaotic World said that Lord Hatred was assassinated by the experts from Akron Palace. Hence, no one suspected anything. Until then only they had found out that Lord Hatred died in the hands of Great Emperor Zishu. The geniuses who were removed by Great Emperor Zishu in secret, the weakest could likely have become a strong emperor god while the more impressive top geniuses, like Lord Hatred, could totally become the strongest fighting power in Sanctuary Alliance. But in the end, before they could grow up, Great Emperor Zishu killed them in the dark. These geniuses shared no resentment of him. Plus, he had killed the geniuses secretly. No one in the outside world knew about it. Why does he want to kill these top geniuses? If the reason of him killing super geniuses like Lord Hatred was because he was worried they might threaten his position, those who weren't as impressive as Lord Hatred wouldn't be able to pose a threat to him. It was unnecessary for him to kill them. With everything mentioned, plus the fact that he hides his true power, Emperor Bai, and I think that the possibility of him being the spy is higher than 70%. Ancestor Tian Chen said solemnly. Only 70%. Jian Wushuang creased his eyebrows. Although it is only 70% and we are not entirely sure, it is sufficient for us to take him head-on, Emperor Bai said. Take him head-on? Jian Wushuang was stunned. Previously, Emperor Bai and ancestor Tian Chen had only been investigating Great Emperor Zishu secretly. On the surface, They hadn't fallen out with Great Emperor Zishu. To deal with him head-on, let's go. We shall make a trip to the estate Zishu is staying in, Emperor Bai said. Jian Wushuang, abysmal saint master and ancestor Tian Chen naturally followed. The estate that Great Emperor Zishu was staying in was in a unique void in eternal chaotic world. The estate was extremely huge, like a paradise. Jian Wushuang, Emperor Bai, abysmal saint master and ancestor Tian Chen appeared in the void above the huge estate. Chapter 2058 Anger. 2058 Anger. In the void above, Emperor Bai's gaze was cold as he overlooked the huge estate. I intentionally made Zishu leave earlier. Hence, besides his maidservants, his follower should also be in his estate. The follower is extremely important to Zishu. She knows a lot about Ziza's affairs. The purpose of our visit is to look for her, Emperor Bai said, and he waved. There was a boundless divine power that instantly covered the entire estate and cut off the spacetime between the estate and the outside world. Jian Wushuang's expression grew solemn. He also knew that it was common for a powerful expert to have a follower. For example, Great Emperor Purple Moon had a follower, Chen Mingzi. He had once lent a helping hand to Jian Wushuang. Let's head in. Emperor Bai commanded, and the four of them immediately plunged into the estate. In the huge estate that looked like a paradise, there was a boat drifting about on the river. On the boat, there was a beautiful lady in a purple robe. I wonder why Emperor Bai suddenly told Master to go over in a hurry, the beautiful lady in a purple robe muttered. Great Emperor Zishu was originally on the boat too. However, he had suddenly received Emperor Bai's message and left. Just then, the lady in a purple robe suddenly lifted her head to look at the surrounding void. She could sense that the space-time around the estate was completely sealed off. Who is it? The lady in a purple robe shouted. Vroom. The four figures appeared in front of the boat and the four pairs of eyes looked at the beautiful lady in a purple robe. This is Emperor Bai. The beautiful lady in a purple robe's face changed. Didn't Emperor Bai ask Master to go over? Why is he suddenly here and he has purposely sealed off the surrounding space-time? Could it be? The beautiful lady in a purple robe thought of a possibility and she was terrified at heart. But she remained composed. Greetings Emperor Bai. Greetings misters. I wonder how can I help all of you? I'd like to ask you something about Zishu, Emperor Bai said frankly. Mr. Emperor Bai, you must be kidding. Regarding things about my master, you should ask my master directly. I believe my master would definitely answer every question of yours, the beautiful lady in a purple robe answered with a smile. You're not willing to answer? Humph, just as expected, Emperor Bai smiled coldly. Then, he took out a crimson pearl. The crimson pearl gave out a mysterious aura. The mysterious aura was soul power. Go! With Emperor Bai's will, the soul power in the crimson pearl instantly burst out. T, the beautiful lady in a purple robe's face changed and she wanted to resist. However, her power stood no chance to struggle before Emperor Bai. She could only watch as the soul power invaded her head. Her body quivered and there was a flash of struggle in her eyes. But she instantly calmed down again. Mr. Emperor Bai, what is this? Jian Wushuang looked over suspiciously. This is a unique treasure I got from an ancient battlefield long ago. It contains soul power that could straightaway control someone for a short time for the person to obey your instructions. Of course, the treasure is only useful to experts below Great Emperor level. Plus, this person is merely Ziza's follower and she wasn't soul-controlled by Zishu. Otherwise, the treasure wouldn't be effective on her, Emperor Bai smiled. Then, his gaze redirected to the beautiful lady in a purple robe again. Tell me. I want to know everything about Zishu. Yes, the beautiful lady in a purple robe nodded blankly. Then, she started telling him the ins and outs of the story. The beautiful lady in a purple robe who was controlled by Emperor Bai naturally handed over everything she knew on a silver platter. Emperor Bai, Jian Wushuang, abysmal saint master and ancestor Tian Chen listened carefully. In the beginning, they were calm and composed. However, as the story developed, the four of them looked to be in distress. In the end, the four of their faces grew grave. Great Emperor Zishu was really the spy that Akron Palace had placed within Sanctuary Alliance. It was verified by the beautiful lady in a purple robe's speech. Over the years, Great Emperor Zishu had also killed some top geniuses secretly using various methods in Eternal Chaotic World. Actually, most of the assassination was carried out by Akron Palace. However, there were times when it was inconvenient for Akron Palace to take action due to some unique reasons. Then, Great Emperor Zishu would take care of it on its behalf. During the years when he was a higher-up in Sanctuary Alliance, the number of assassinated top geniuses was far beyond what ancestor Tian Chen and Emperor Bai had found. However, the fact that Great Emperor Zishu was a spy and the issue geniuses that Great Emperor Zishu had assassinated over the years was not what pissed the four of them off. They were truly shocked and angry that the beautiful lady in a purple robe had brought up another force. Vientiane Tower, the #1 chamber of commerce that was widely acknowledged in Eternal Chaotic World. No matter if it was selling information, treasure, resources, or even offering assassination services, Vientiane Tower was known to be #1. And they were greatly related to Great Emperor Zishu. The reason why Great Emperor Zishu could kill so many top experts secretly without anyone in Eternal Chaotic World knowing and the higher-ups in Sanctuary Alliance never suspecting him was that Vientiane Tower was involved to remove all traces he left behind. There were even times when Great Emperor Zishu could have removed the geniuses successfully because Vientiane Tower catalyzed the process. Great Emperor Zishu and Vientiane Tower looked like they had no relations, but they were closely knitted. What did it mean? It meant that Vientiane Tower was also a force that Akron Palace and Holocaust sect had placed in Eternal Chaotic World. Vientiane Tower. Emperor Bai bellowed and his voice reverberated through the surrounding universe. Jian Wushuang, Abysmal Saint Master and ancestor Tian Chen were angry too. Vientiane Tower as the #1 chamber of commerce, just how high was their position in Eternal Chaotic World? How powerful were they? If the widely acknowledged #1 force in Sanctuary Alliance was Lineage of Star, the strongest force that didn't belong to Sanctuary Alliance in the human region over the years was no doubt Vientiane Tower. Vientiane Tower possessed power and a foundation that was sufficient for Divine King Island, Soaring Heaven King Palace and other top forces to look up to it. How could such a great force be on the enemy's side? No wonder Vientiane Tower isn't willing to join Sanctuary Alliance. On the surface, they say that they don't want to get involved in the affairs. In actual fact, the information that they are trading stirs up great massacres and fights within Eternal Chaotic World. The Assassin Department has assassinated many experts and geniuses of Eternal Chaotic World over the years. Although they're not fighting, every single movement of theirs will stir up a bloody massacre in Eternal Chaotic World. Ancestor Tian Chen's voice was cold and it contained boundless murderous intention. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.